the face of fear on everyone you meet. They come on the street, they give their lives. We are the people.
Ladies and gentlemen, feds and degenerates, cuckolds of all ages, we are live. Welcome to Mild's Culture Plate. I am your host, Mild Kevin Miles, and it is Friday, May 9th, 2025. And yeah, we're a little late today because Rumble has been down until like shortly before the stream. Luckily, they came up like right at 6 o'clock, right when I was spreading the word everywhere that I was going to postpone the stream a little bit. And I spent so much time trying to postpone the stream that I didn't grab a bite to eat before the 3 hour live stream. So, of course, yeah, I had to go ahead and do that and post the link out everywhere. And here we are. Here we are. You're here. I'm here. We're going to stay live for the next 3 hours on this, the premiere edition of the Friday 3 hour culture plate. And I do have a packed and loaded program for you folks tonight. Come on into the chat, say hello, click that like button on your way in, stab that thumb like it asked you to leave their tent at a track and field meet. We love to do that around here. We love to hit that like button. So please hit that like button, and for God's sakes, share the link out. Let other people join the party, because we're going to be rolling for the next 3 hours. So cheers to Shut Up I Can Cook over on YouTube. I see you out there. Good having you. And now we have a Cyrene Pickle. Cheers and welcome. It says happy Friday, Mild, and everyone. Yes, happy Friday to you too. Oh my, we're gonna get into some of the news. Now I'm using a little bit of a different format for my links now. So this 3 hour format's a little new to me. I only did it twice before. So bear with me as I bring up the links one at a time here, instead of having a tab full of a browser window with like 50 tabs open. I got to do these one at a time from a copy paste situation. So bear with me. I'm a little new to this. We're going to start off with a little bit of sort of milquetoast news. I have not had a chance to go through them yet, but Tulsi Gabbard the other day had notified us that there are 60,000 new files on the assassination of Senator Robert F. Kennedy online at archives.gov/RFK. We got initial 10,000 documents 3 weeks ago, and then more than $60,000 discovered, classified, and digitized for public viewing. Today's release is an important step toward maximum transparency. And of course, this was when was this? I thought this was May 7th. And then she released some on April 18th as well. And so don't contact any of these people, but someone immediately went grok, so who killed RFK? And the official record is still Sirhan, and more of the documents in that apparently points to Sirhan. So believe what you will. I personally don't believe there's a chance in hell Sirhan did it. But that's what we have. And then, here's the archive.gov research/JFK. And, definitely huge dumps of PDFs here. So feel free to go browse that at your leisure. I'm not necessarily going to be able to have time to do it myself. I will be jumping into some other people's reporting, and if I see anything of note, I will bring it back right here to Mild's Culture Plate and let you know. But I figured, we've been bitching about all these files, the Epstein files, the JFK files, everything. And here we have Tulsi Gabbard releasing some files on Bobby's dad. So the big news story of the day, and if you manage to catch any of my advertising for the show over on my social media, if you manage to catch any of the advertising for my show, you saw that my AI generated promo image today was of me at a riot trying to break into a detention facility, which is kind of a teasing joke about today's top story here. We have Democratic Congress members and the mayor of a city in New Jersey, Newark, basically, trying to break into an ICE detention facility, and the mayor got arrested. So here we go. Let's do this. Democratic, as from Fox News, Democrat Congress members storm a New Jersey ICE prison to conduct an oversight visit ICE's Delaney Hall in Newark is holding alleged killers, MS-13 gang members, child rapists, and more. Mayor of New Jersey arrested Friday at Immigration Customs Enforcement facility where 3 members of Congress also stormed the gate demanding that they be allowed to conduct an oversight visit. Newark Mayor Ras Baraka was arrested at the scene for trespassing. The mayor of Newark, Ras Baraka, committed trespass and ignored multiple warnings from Homeland Security investigations to remove himself from the detention center in Newark, New Jersey this afternoon, said Alina Habba, U.S. Attorney for New Jersey. On X, he has willingly chosen to disregard the law. That will not stand in this state. He has been taken into custody. Quote, "No one is above the law." Yeah. Democrats' favorite phrase, and we're gonna keep bringing it up anytime something like this happens. A crowd, including several lawmakers, gathered outside HSI Newark field office where Baraka was being held Friday evening, so more protesting. The group chanted, yelled, and banged on the gate, calling for Baraka's release. Several politicians also joined the growing calls, like Cory Booker, Governor Phil Murphy. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson called Baraka a friend and encouraged him to fight for change. His arrest today is an example of how the federal government overreach continues to undermine due process, Johnson said. Bob Hugin, chairman of the New Jersey Republican Party, called the Baraka's action as a stunt, noting that he ignored repeated warnings. He's not a mayor, he's running for government, and this stunt shows exactly what kind of leader he would be, one who puts political theater ahead of public safety and rule of law. Earlier in the day, Representatives Rob Menendez, Bonnie Watson Coleman, and LaMonica McIver, all New Jersey Democrats, entered the detention facility in Newark and were held up inside the first checkpoint, DHS spokesperson told Fox News. Is this a video? Let's go ahead and watch the video.
If you're not going in, you're in violation of federal law. And we will proceed. And you don't need to be at the end of that.
Wait, what did she say? If you're not what?
No. If you're not going in, you're in violation of federal law.
I still didn't hear what she said. If you're not something in,
at the end of that. So
you're in violation of federal law and we will pursue.
Who's there?
I mean, they don't fuck around. It's a prison, folks. They don't fuck around. You can't just waltz into a fucking prison and demand oversight. I mean, on the one hand, yes, as a congressperson, you should, be able to say, call up and say, hey, yeah, we want to know what's going on. Have a guard ready. We're down the street. But you don't just walk up to the gate and storm in. Okay, how do I get back to the article?
If you're not going in,
there we go. These members of Congress storming into a detention facility goes beyond bizarre political stunt and puts the safety of law enforcement agents and the detainees at risk, a DHS statement to Fox News said. Members of Congress are not above the law and cannot illegally break into detention facilities. Had these members requested a tour, we would have facilitated a tour. The 3 lawmakers were outside the facility with a group of protesters when the gates opened to allow an ICE bus in. Lawmakers then rushed through the gates. So they waited for the gates to open for a bus and then bum rushed their way in. In a press conference later, Coleman said ICE was out of control. McIver said the 3 lawmakers waited more than 2 hours to gain access to the facility to conduct an oversight visit, and said all 3 of them were also assaulted by ICE personnel. There are people who are supposed to be officers who are supposed to protect us, and they have done none of that. If they can treat 3 members of Congress like that, just imagine how they treat people on the street each and every day, both undocumented and people who are citizens. Menendez is the son of former Senator Bob Menendez. Okay, that's where I got tripped up earlier. I called him Bob, and yeah, Rob Menendez. Said ICE officers at the facility performed an act of intimidation. Well, what were you doing then? We know what ICE has been doing in our communities. We know the president lied, that the administration lies every day when they say they're going after criminals. It's not true. They feel no weight of the law. They feel no restraint in what they should be doing. And what was shown in broad daylight today when they not just arrested the mayor of New York, but they put their hands on members of Congress. Okay. Let's see what.
Hey everyone, it's your Congresswoman LaMonica McIver representing New Jersey's 10th Congressional District.
McIver.
I am literally on my way right now to Delaney Hall to conduct an oversight visit here at this detention center. We've been seeing on the news all of the lack of transparency and chaos that has been coming out of this facility. They have, neglected to let city officials in, to let the mayor in, code enforcement to fire inspectors have been denied access to this building. And as your congressional member, it is my duty to conduct the oversight.
Okay, yeah, you're a federal congresswoman. You might have oversight, but fuck the mayor, fuck the city officials, fuck city council. Like, this is federal government property. The city has no rights here. Now the state might get the state involved, and if the federal government pushes back on the state being involved, oh no, my good vapes. Oh no, there it is. All right. If the federal government pushes back on the state being involved, invoke the 10th Amendment. I personally believe that the state should have the right to kick the federal government out of their state. But you, as a congresswoman, demanding that local politicians should just get to waltz right into a federal prison, no. Prison holds alleged killers, MS-13 gang members, child rapists, and other criminal offenders. And we're going to get into some of the kind of people who should be in a federal prison a little bit later in the show. The kind of people you would lock up in a place like this. Now, granted, this is for deportations. This is ICE, but, we're going to talk about some federal prison stuff later. Anyway, let's see. Do we have anything else? Yes, we do. We have a couple of other videos in relation to this story. Let's go ahead and bring those up now. The woman you just saw, that's her. That's her right there, pushing on ICE officials. Now, they're saying they got assaulted, but watch this big red blob right here. Look at her, pushing on the cop. Who's really being assaulted here? Now again, I could be wrong. You see ICE over here and ICE over there. Maybe they pushed her toward the fence and then she was just trying to push her way over. But, look, this is the gates like closed. And these officers over here, like by where she's about to push, they're securing the gate. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and bring that down for a second as we bring up yet another one. Okay, here's in that article from Fox we just saw, they mentioned a comment from Alina Habba. We'll go ahead and watch some of her statements to Fox.
What's happening?
Well, I can confirm, as I have publicly stated, that we have put the mayor, Ras Baraka, under arrest. It's very simple, Martha. As I've said, in the state of New Jersey, as Pam Bondi has said, in the United States, we will not stand for anybody getting in the way of getting rid of criminals in this country. It's very simple. Unfortunately, the mayor has publicly for 3 days been saying that he's going to break in, eventually did break in, was given multiple opportunities to remove himself, failed to do so, and has been detained.
Multiple opportunities to remove himself.
And where is he being held?
I'm not going to speak to that right now. He's obviously in New Jersey.
But he's in custody.
Yes. He has been arrested and will be charged.
So the report of these individuals, and we have a live, this might be from earlier, this particular video, this is from earlier. Okay, we're going to go back to the live shot in a moment, but
Okay, I'll go ahead and stop that there because, yeah, they're really just going to repeat some of the shit we saw in the article. But yeah, the mayor of Newark, New Jersey is in federal custody right now for interfering with ICE. It's not playing games time. As Dan Bongino once said, cutesy time is over. Now, you can kind of see situations like that. They start off as like protests. And I'm one of the people who might be uniquely familiar with some of the ways the government goes to in which to squash peaceful protests. And one of the ways they do it is make peaceful protests look not peaceful. And, a lot of times you see situations like Antifa. Pardon me real quick, folks. Don't want to have sinus issues on stream. Anyway, one of the ways in which they do that is Antifa. And recently we've been having yet another outbreak of situations where universities have been sort of the hotbed of protests that have went too far. And the next couple stories kind of go to that. We're going to go to BBC News, where on Wednesday, Palestinian protesters stormed a library at Columbia University in New York City. Oh, nope, that's not it. Hang on. Share this tab instead. There we go. Here we go. Boom.
Oh my God.
I was just doing work with friends, trying to work on a final paper due at the end of the week. And all of a sudden I was walking through the lobby.
Imagine that. You're just trying to do homework and all these people in
who
masks.
I would assume are students,
cafes,
covered in masks and hoodies and whatnot, stormed through the entrance, kind of shoving some public safety officers, and ran upstairs into what's like the main reading room. I believe they're still in there about 3 hours later, and they had drums and megaphones and whatnot.
I mean, folks, you have a First Amendment right to protest on public grounds. You don't have the right to mob a building and take it over and prevent the use of the building from other people.
Oh my God.
And of course, now you see them all leaving in zipper tie handcuffs. Oh yeah, they're trying to get me to watch a video about the Pope, and I'm not going to do that. All right. So there you have that. And then there's been a little bit of aftermath. This is from AM New York. Columbia University turmoil. The Secretary of State Rubio threatens to deport protesters after the 80 arrests for occupying library. Chaos returned to Columbia University on Wednesday night as some 80 protesters were arrested after demonstrators occupied the school's library and clashed with police, leading to threats of deportation from Secretary of State Rubio. The latest chapter in more than a year of campus unrest. By the way, this is Dean Moses from AM New York. Group of pro-Palestinian protesters, many of whom wore masks and keffiyehs over their face, seemingly to prevent anyone from identifying them, entered the Ivy League school's Butler Library and refused to leave. Columbia's acting president, Claire Shipman, said the occupation created a safety hazard and prompted the university to take the necessary step of requesting the NYPD to assist in securing the building and safety of our community. Eric Adams, good old buddy Eric Adams, acknowledged Columbia's request by confirming the NYPD's entry to the campus to, quote, remove individuals who are trespassing. As I've said repeatedly, New York City will always defend the right to peaceful protest, but we will never tolerate lawlessness. To our Jewish New Yorkers, especially the students at Columbia who feel threatened or unsafe attending classes because of these events. Know that your mayor stands with you and will always work to keep you safe, said Mayor Adams. And added, to parents of students protesting, call your children and make clear that breaking the law is wrong and they should exit the building immediately. To those protesting on campus who do not attend Columbia, exit the campus immediately or you will be arrested. We will not tolerate hate or violence of any form in our city. All right, shout out to New York Mayor Eric Adams. And again, more photos. The May 7th occupation occurred amid ongoing tension over encampments, destruction of property, and accusations of anti-Semitism tied to pro-Palestine protests on campus. Trump moved to pull hundreds of millions of dollars in Columbia's funding unless the school cracked down on the unrest. Feds also took Mahmoud Khalil, organizer of protests last year, into custody. Rubio then ratcheted up pressure on Wednesday night, threatening in an X post to deport those who took part in the illegal occupation and labeled them pro-Hamas thugs. Quote, we are reviewing the visa status of the trespassers and vandals who took over Columbia University's library. Pro-Hamas thugs are no longer welcome in our great nation, Rubio said. Under the law, deportation applies to non-citizens and those here on the U.S. on visas. Natural-born citizens in this country can't be deported under the 14th Amendment. The Trump administration is seeking to strip birthright citizenship in an ongoing Supreme Court case. Wednesday's occupation drew further rebuke from Governor Hochul. Everyone has the right to peacefully protest, but violence, vandalism, or destruction of property are completely unacceptable, Hochul said over social media. And that's the story. That's the story. Brought to you by AM New York, Dean Moses. Folks, know your First Amendment. Know what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. You can't block traffic. You can't block the use of public buildings. And, like if a section of a park or something is shut down due to, maintenance, like you can't just say, oh, yeah, we're just allowed everywhere the taxpayers paid for. That doesn't work. Okay, now moving from one side of the country to the other for a similar story. My Northwest News, Julia Dallas, talking about over in Seattle, the University of Washington, around 30 masked activists arrested after taking over a University of Washington building, staging a blockade. University of Washington Jewish Alumni Organization reported the black-clad masked activists took over the new engineering building Monday night. Demonstration began at 5 p.m., but by 11:30, police began to remove people from the building and arrested those who refused to leave. According to a group called Students United for Palestinian Equality and Return, Super U claimed it was behind the takeover. All activists who entered the engineering building were arrested, about 30 activists in total as of this reporting. The group vandalized property and started a dumpster fire, according to journalists on the ground, while Seattle police officers have ordered their disposal. Peaceful fire. Okay, you gotta love it. Photos posted on X showed the activists piling furniture outside the building to block entry. There we go. Gotta love that. University police were reportedly at the scene. Some of those who were arrested were injured during the process and require medical attention, as spokesperson for Super U told ABC. Super U launched this takeover to make U sever its ties with Boeing as the war in Gaza continues. The organization wants the university to stop receiving funding or donations from Boeing. Boeing donated approximately $10 million for the construction of $90 million of new engineering building. U has previously stated, that's University of Washington, that its relationship with Boeing dates back more than a century. Quote, return any existing donations, financial investments, and eliminate other material ties to Boeing, Super Oo stated. Prohibit Boeing executives and employees from teaching classes or having influence over curriculum. Boeing, in addition to one of the premier airplane manufacturers, is one of the largest defense companies in the U.S. The Jewish Alumni Organization stated the people hung a banner on the front of the building in an effort to rename it for a man killed last year in an airstrike. Photo posted on X shows the banner with one person holding the flag. Here we go. Shaban al-Dalu building. No. University of Washington released a statement. The U is committed to maintaining a secure learning and research environment, strongly condemns this illegal building occupation, and the anti-Semitic statement that was issued by a suspended student group Monday. The university will not be intimidated by this sort of offensive and destructive behavior and will continue to oppose anti-Semitism in all forms. Hey, Demon's Wrath in the chat over on Rumble. Forgot you changed to Fridays. Thankfully, the Rumble notification got me covered. Thank you, Rumble. At least something's working on Rumble today. And from what I can tell, it's working pretty well right now for being completely down 10 minutes before the show. Cheers and welcome, brother. I don't have my sound effects ready. Sorry. Let me do this. Let me go see what I have on the. Let's see what we have on the. I uploaded some of them to Rumble Studio. Let's do the Corn Pop.
And Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Yeah, there we go. And then let's see, we got I owe Cyrene Pickle one. Let's do the people are retarded.
But the people are retarded.
All right, and then we'll give Cookie the do not come.
Do not come.
Okay. All right. Let's bring that story down. Let's continue with the news. Let's do this story here. There's a so I've been spending the last 2 weeks watching the trial of Karen Reed. I covered it once on this show back in the day because she had been her trial had ended in a mistrial. Well, now she's being retried for the murder of her boyfriend at the time. And it's quite an interesting case. I'm not going to delve into it, but, you know, one of the reasons it was declared a mistrial the first time around, and one of the reasons it's such a gripping case for most people in America, is it really highlights the idea that these small town police departments just suck at evidence collection, suck at chain of custody, and quite frankly, are very incestuous. Demon's Wrath made chicken fajitas for dinner. Yeah, I had to I cooked a couple of steaks for breakfast, lunch, and dinner today, and had to throw it in the fridge this morning. And is my video frozen? There it goes. Anyway, so right before the show, I actually had a little tiny bit of steak, and I'm going to go finish it after the show. So I'm actually not hungry. I had, as my theme song was playing, I had a few bites of steak, so I'm good for now. But thank you, Demon's Wrath. Thank you for thinking about me. Love some chicken fajitas, man. Fridays are good for chicken fajitas too. I know like 3 or 4 restaurants around here do fajita specials on Fridays. So hopefully the Mexican places in your area do too. Anyway, so I was talking about corrupt police departments. Corrupt police departments. And our next story is definitely about a corrupt police department. And we're going to go ahead and bring this up now. If you live in Alabama, boom, CBS News. Almost 60 cases are dismissed due to corruption in a northern Alabama police department, a grand jury finds. Nearly 60 felony cases will be dropped in a small Alabama town because they were compromised by what a grand jury called a rampant culture of corruption in the local police, according to a statement on Wednesday. The grand jury determined that 58 felony cases had been tainted by corruption in the Hanceville Police Department in northern Alabama. after 4 officers and the police chief were all indicted on a variety of charges related to mishandling or removing evidence from the department's evidence room. The indictment included a recommendation that the department be immediately abolished. The case roiled the town of approximately 3,200 people 45 miles north of Birmingham. Coleman County District Attorney Champ Crocker, what a name, Champ Crocker, said that even one compromised case is too many, but the grand jury had no other recourses. In a statement Wednesday night, he added that most of the cases were drug-related and only a few were personal crimes with victims. 58 tossed cases were selected based on an audit conducted by the Alabama State Bureau of Investigations. Wow. An audit found that nearly 40% of all 650 evidence bags and almost a third of all firearms weren't documented before being stored in the evidence room. There was also a wide array of evidence that appeared to be missing, including firearms, cash, and drugs. Woohoo! Demon's Rest says, cops who are corrupt should be given the maximum sentence to any crimes they're convicted of. Nay, 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 sir. Any crimes by which they had arrested anyone of. No pity or sympathy for public officials who are engaged in corruption. If they arrested somebody for murder, make them like now that person's going to get off for the murder. So, as justice for the victim, now you get to serve that murder sentence. I'm all for that. Like not just crimes you're convicted of, but you should serve the sentence the victim didn't get justice for. But, we have, qualified immunity and all that. I mean, granted, you don't get qualified immunity for this, but, they would never. I mean, granted, admittedly, it's an unfair justice standard, but you're the state. You're the one locking people up. Hansville Mayor Jimmy Sawyer placed the whole department on leave in February, and then following weeks of debate, announced in March that the department would be disbanded and built from scratch. A spokesperson for Hansville's municipal government did not immediately respond to an email request for comment on Thursday afternoon. Riddle is a core member for the Associated Press, Report for America, State House News Initiative, Report for America. Okay. Anyway. Okay, there's that. And I just have to say, with police departments being disbanded and police departments being closed down, I just have to say, Lord Jesus, I've seen what you've done for others. And I want that for me. All right, let's get into some of the, we'll get into a little bit of the racism, and then we'll back off, and then we'll get more into racism later. Kanye West has a new song out, and I wanted to talk about it just a little bit. I'm not going to play very much of it, but I want to play the hook, right? We're going to play halfway into the song. Now, the lyrics of the song kind of go into, his fight to see his children and how that made him hate people, and now he's become the villain. And so then he comes right out and says the 3 words nobody in America should say, which, freedom of speech, say them anyway. But he, essentially the chorus of this song are 3 words put together that no American should say. And I gotta admit, the song's kind of a banger, and I will explain why I think that. Yeah. Demon's Wrath knows where we're going. Shit, I didn't actually share it. Here we go. So here you have several rows of African American gentlemen who are chanting along with the hook of this song. So, look, disavow. I just got to say, disavow. All 3 of those words, disavow all 3. Maybe hail, like hail to everyone in the chat. Did I just put the hand up? I didn't mean to put the hand up. I literally didn't mean to put the hand up. I'm waving at the camera. Hail to all y'all in the chat, but no Heil. No Heil. No, I don't do the Heil. But anyway, I'm just kidding mostly here. But the song's kind of a banger, and let me explain what I think about it. Now, if you heard the beat, it's fucking genius. Now, the CIA used to use music as sort of a what do you call it? A psychological psyop tool, right? Because you can use different music, different musical style, different types of beats. Oh, Demon's Wrath says Heil is German for hail. It's fine. Yeah, but I'm only what, like a fourth German, I think. I could be wrong. So I mean, I don't even speak German. Maybe I should learn how to speak German. Maybe it would make the show better. Sorry. but I, that's a kickin' beat. And it's a kickin' beat, and I had to think about it. It reminds me, like the whole vibe here. Let me bring this back up. The whole vibe here reminds me of like a stadium anthem. Like if you go to a sporting event. Can you imagine a whole stadium full of people? Now, granted, I never want to see this happen, but a whole stadium full of people and this going on. I mean, seriously, I noticed one time when I was at a sporting event, it was a Kansas City Royals. I think they were facing the White Sox, which they just beat the crap out of. Anyway, but a couple years back, I was at a Royals White Sox game, and there were some fans from Chicago down in the stands, and then we all started our "Let's Go Royals" chant, and I noticed like one of the kids of the White Sox fans started "Let's Go Royal." Like it's this idea that the chanting and the stadium music and all this, like it gets stuck in your head. Like this is a banger. And it's like a psychological earworm. It drives me insane. All day today at work in the inner city, I had to like, oh wait, there's Church's chicken. Legs and thighs chicken. Like I had to like change the words to the song because it was stuck in my head. And, I got to shout out to Kanye. I don't agree with his message, but he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing, and he's going to get the views. All right, in other racism news, well, I guess this isn't as much racism, but this has been sort of a scandal brewing on the internet. And we'll get into this New York Post article. A lot of people have an issue with the way the New York Post has phrased this headline, and we'll get into the article here. Boom. New York Post. High school athlete shot dead after TikTok door knock prank goes wrong at Virginia home. Now, I've seen commentary around this story. I haven't actually read this story, but I've seen a lot of commentary around this story. A lot of people see the headline and they're like, we played Ding Dong Ditch when I was a kid. This isn't Ding Dong Ditch, folks. And this isn't a TikTok challenge. This is more serious than that. A Virginia homeowner allegedly shot and killed a 3-sport high school athlete after the teenager and 2 pals banged on the shooter's door while playing Ding Dong Ditch early Saturday, authorities said. Very misleading sentence there. Tyler Chase Butler, 27, was charged Tuesday with killing 18-year-old Michael Bosworth Jr. and injuring one of his friends during what police initially reported was an attempted burglary on a residential block in Fredericksburg at 3 o'clock a.m., the Spotsylvania County Sheriff's Office said. Butler claimed to detectives that a trio of teens were trying to break into his house, but the wounded teenager insisted they were only recording a prank that could be shared on TikTok, according to police documents obtained by local outlets. Here's the homeowner, Tyler Chase Butler, arrested in the death. The boy who suffered a graze wound said the group was looking for a place to hide when a series of gunshots went off. The third teen, who was not harmed, also reportedly told police they were playing Ding Dong Ditch, which involves knocking on a front door or ringing a doorbell and making a run for it, NBC4 Washington reported. Bosworth was a high school senior that played lacrosse and football and wrestling. A victim was gunned down the same day as high school prom that was scheduled that evening. Butler's facing charges of second-degree murder, malicious wounding, and 2 counts of a firearm in commission of a felony, Sheriff's Office said. He's being held at Rappahannock Regional Jail on no bond. So no bond. You got kids. Now, what I've heard, again, this isn't in the article, they were trying to make a run for it. What I've heard was they were in his backyard. I could be wrong, but that's one of the things the internet has said. Now, granted, if he's just popping shots down the street at some kids running away from his property, that's not a justified shoot. But if these kids were banging on doors and windows of his house and then like hiding in wait in his backyard, you could say, there could be a self-defense argument to be made that he might have been afraid they were going to ambush him, might have been afraid they were going to try to break in, draw him to one door and bust in the other. But yeah, I mean, technically none of that would be self-defense either. But fuck around and find out. I mean, you're 18 years old and you're fucking around in people's backyard. Whether it's illegal or not, you might take some high velocity metal in your gut. Okay. Just checking to see. We've got a decent number of viewers right now. I was going to check and see if we had an ad read I could do. We're not quite there yet. So feel free to keep sharing that link out. Click that thumbs up. Let's see if we can eventually make the front page, yo. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so let's go on. Back to New York. We got MSNBC here reporting on the Letitia James real estate fraud case. Let's go ahead and see what they had to say here. Oh, Jen Psaki. By the way, Jen Psaki came out last week and said that, she had no idea that Biden was having cognitive decline at any point until the Trump debate. Press X to doubt, folks. Press X to doubt. Gotta love that. All right, here we go.
I have to ask you, there were reports today that the Justice Department has launched a criminal investigation into real estate transactions that you're involved with. I'm not validating that in any way, but I wanted to just ask you if you've received a formal notice of that at this point.
No, not at all. These allegations, Jen, are baseless. They have been discredited, refuted. There was a letter that was prepared by my attorney that was sent to Pam Bondi, the United States Attorney General. And it's unfortunate that President Trump publicly attacked me a few days ago. And as a result of that, he telegraphed
Wait a minute. You think it's absurd that he would publicly attack you after you literally only have a job because you told voters you would take him down, and then quite literally went after him for doing legitimate business. Okay.
The Department of Justice and to FBI that I should be targeted. You see, this is nothing more than an extension of his revenge, his retribution, and he finally got up to the J's. And so I stand prepared to respond to these baseless attacks with facts. And we look forward, obviously, to further discussions with the Department of Justice or any other individual who leaked this material.
Okay, so there you have it. There you have that. And life comes at you fast, folks. And especially if you're Letitia James, life comes at you fast, folks.
Yesterday to Letitia James's spokesperson, and when these allegations first came to light, they did provide a prompt response alleging there was a weaponization of the justice system, some type of political payback. This time, though, her spokesperson has not responded to our requests for a comment. Back to you.
Well, we'll wait for that. Lana Austin, thank you for joining us live there. We do appreciate that. I want to bring in now Amy Robbins. She is here with us on the set. She is the host.
This is a shout out to Newsmax.
Amy, good to see you on set. How are you?
Great to see you guys too. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we've covered the civil Trump suit, the trial that went on forever. There were so many, by the way.
So yes, the grand jury has subpoenaed
that we've seen
Letitia James,
and now you have this full circle moment of what the AG accused and charged the president, Donald Trump, of. Now she is being indicted by a grand jury, or at least we're seeing subpoenas issued by a grand jury now on the very same charges. What are the odds of that?
It's just irony all around, and I can't help but...
Okay, enough of that. I'm not into like the whole, let's all comment on it. I mean, even though that's literally what I'm doing here. But yeah. Hey, we got Cool Frog over on YouTube. Cool Frog is on YouTube. Is Rumble down again? I saw that Cool Frog was live a little bit ago. Shout out to Cool Frog. No, it appears to be... Rumble appears to be up for me. In fact, let me go ahead. Looks like Cool Frog's actually got a stream going right now. Here, I'll go ahead and just put fucking Cool Frog's link in the chat, even though, definitely don't want, to send my viewers away. But please check out Cool Frog later tonight. All right. He usually does his Friday party streams, man, and I've been a part of those quite a number of times. His open lines. Wait a minute, what the hell? Oh yeah, his open invite party streams on Friday nights. So yeah, cheers to Cool Frog. Good seeing you in the chat. All right, so let's go back to Newsmax as we have U.S. Attorney Ed Martin, who was spit on by a protester. Wait, Rumble Studio, don't do that to me.
And so we need to get really focused. How you doing?
Oh, look at her.
You are a disgusting man.
You are a disgusting man. So all because Trump tried to nominate him for a cabinet position. But allegedly, Ed Martin has said now that an arrest warrant has been issued for that woman. And she could be facing a felony for assaulting a federal official, which comes with 8 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. This is according to Nick Sortor on X. Shout out to Nick Sortor. He's usually a pretty good source of information. All right. And one more story from X, and then we'll get into some more Trump stuff here. Let's go over and see what Representative Anna Paulina Luna is doing nowadays. Now, you may remember I covered her a few weeks back surrounding the whole mothers bringing their babies into Congress and complaining that, they had to be in Congress in person instead of home. Cyrene Pickle, disgusting spitter, hopes she faces consequences. Well, allegedly she's supposed to be. We'll see We'll see if the federal government holds up their end of the bargain here. But yeah, Anna Paulina Luna, part of that whole we don't want to have to come to Congress in person to vote, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, now she's doing something good. From Breitbart, exclusive. Anna Paulina Luna proposes to, quote, strip deep state surveillance tools by repealing the Patriot Act. Anna Paulina Luna of Florida on Wednesday proposed legislation to eliminate the intelligence community surveillance tools that erode civil liberties. For over 2 decades, rogue actors within intelligence agencies have used the Patriot Act to create the most sophisticated, unaccountable surveillance apparatus in the Western world, Luna said to Breitbart News. Luna introduced the American Privacy Restoration Act. Okay, let's go ahead and open that up in a new tab here. Boom. Oh, it's one page. Boom. This act may be cited as the American Privacy Restoration Act, Section 2. The USA Patriot Act, Public Law 10756, 115 Stat 272, is repealed, and each provision of law amended by such act is amended to read as such provision read on October 25th, 2001. Okay, let's go back. Elizabeth Goitin, Senior Director for Liberty and National Security Program at the Brennan Center for Justice, described how the post-9/11 law dramatically increased warrantless surveillance of Americans' communications. In a variety of contexts, it became lawful for the government to collect an American's sensitive information merely based on a claim that the information was relevant to a legitimate purpose, regardless of whether the person was reasonably suspected of wrongdoing. Even for the most sensitive of information, communications content, Congress gave the NSA free rein to collect phone calls, texts, emails between foreign targets and Americans, communications that previously could not be obtained without a court order based on probable cause. All right, we're going to kind of skip down some of this. In fact, okay, Luna says, my legislation will strip the deep state of these tools and protect every American's Fourth Amendment right against unreasonable searches and seizures. It's past time to rein in on our intelligence agencies and restore the right to privacy. Anyone trying to convince you otherwise is using quote-unquote security as an excuse to erode your freedom, Luna concluded in her statement. Okay, Sean Moran from Breitbart. Thank you for that story. Shout out to Representative Anna Paulina Luna. Good seeing you doing something great. So, folks, how do you feel about habeas corpus? We kind of touched on this on a previous show, I believe. But now we finally heard it from sort of the horse's mouth. We got Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller speaking to reporters. Let's hear what he had to say.
Hold on, there's a question back there first.
I have 2 quick questions. First, President Trump has talked about potentially suspending habeas corpus to take care of the illegal immigration problem. When could we see that happen, do you think?
Well, the Constitution is clear, and that, of course, is the supreme law of the land, that the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus can be suspended in a time of invasion. So I would say that's an option we're actively looking at. Look, a lot of it depends on whether the courts do the right thing or not. At the end of the day, Congress passed a body of law known as the Immigration and Nationality Act, which stripped Article 3 courts, that's the judicial branch, of jurisdiction over immigration cases. So Congress actually passed, it's called jurisdiction stripping legislation. It passed a number of laws that say that the Article 3 courts aren't even allowed to be involved in immigration cases. Many of you probably don't know this. I'll give you a good example. Are you familiar with the term temporary protected status, or TPS, right? So by statute, the courts are stripped of jurisdiction from overruling a presidential determination or a secretarial determination on TPS when the Secretary of Homeland Security makes that determination. So when Secretary
I'm not a lawyer,
terminated TPS,
but some of this sounds like bullshit.
That Biden flew into the country. When courts stepped in, they were violating explicit language that Congress had enacted, saying they have no jurisdiction. So it's not just the courts aren't just at war with the executive branch. the courts are at war, these radical rogue judges, with the
With the
legislative
laws that
branch
were
as well,
written by
too.
the
So
legislative.
all of that will inform the choices the president ultimately
That makes
makes.
somewhat
Yes.
sense. So wait, C-SPAN said that this was important about habeas corpus. Fuck you, C-SPAN. We'll just ignore that. Okay. You know, this is the problem with our fake news, right? They say something, says something, and no, he's making an argument about ignoring court proceedings. It said almost nothing about habeas corpus. That aggravates me. It aggravates me to no avail how much our media lies about this shit. Now, granted, ultimately, what he's talking about would, quote, unquote, suspend habeas corpus for those individuals found to be illegal criminals. And you know what? Let me do this. While we're on the topic, yeah, let me move this one down below. Okay. Shit. Let's do this. We'll do this one after we talk about James O'Keefe. All right, let me go back to this. Let's talk about Kristi Noem on Abrego Garcia while we're on the topic of illegal immigration. Let's hear what Kristi Noem had to say to Congress about Abrego Garcia. Hey, we got Sanglan86 in the chat. By the way, let's see. Who did we have earlier? We had Demon's Wrath pop in. Let me give you, or Cool Frog. We had Cool Frog pop in. Let me give Cool Frog you are fake news.
You are fake news. You are fake news.
And then let me do Legend of Zelda chest for Sanglant. There you go. Welcome, Sanglant. All right. Using a little different soundboard today. I finally uploaded them into Rumble Studio. Some of them. Don't have them all. Okay, Kristi Noem was testifying in front of Congress earlier this week. And you had Senator Murphy here who basically questioned her about Abrego Garcia and basically what you just heard Stephen Miller talking about with the courts making these decisions on behalf of the executive branch.
Court decision requires the administration to facilitate Kilmar Abrego Garcia's release from El Salvador. Can you describe the steps that you have taken to facilitate this release? And specifically, can you answer as to whether you have reached out to your counterpart in El Salvador?
Okay, so again, that would be like me facilitating the release of your dog. That literally would be like Cool Frog coming back in here and telling me that I had to go find, let's say, Sanglant's dog and release it. I don't have the authority to go into Sanglant's house and open his back door. Like, President Trump and Kristi Noem do not have the authority to go to El Salvador and open their prison doors.
To facilitate Mr. Abrego Garcia's release.
Abrego Garcia is a citizen of El Salvador and should never have been in this country and will not be coming back to this country. There is no scenario where Abrego Garcia will be in the United States again. If he were to come back, we would immediately deport him again because he is a terrorist, he's a human smuggler, and he is a wife beater.
You've read this?
The terrorist, a smuggler, and a wife beater. We're not going to let him back. Imagine. Now look at his face. He's about to argue with her. Now look, I have my problems with Kristi Noem. Now personally, call me a misogynist if you want. We'll get into that too. We'll get into some misogyny later. Stay tuned, folks. This is going to be a lovely show. But I have my problems with Kristi Noem, and I have my problems with Pam Bondi. I think both of them take too many pictures, do too many photo ops. They're on the news too many times. talking about shit instead of doing shit. And here we go. Kristi Noem's kind of talking about shit, not really, doing much here. In fact, Kristi Noem shouldn't be doing the things she's doing. Like, oh my God, back to the photo of her with the ICE agents pointing the damn gun at the guy's head. Oh my God. Anyway, so back to let's see Murphy. And as dumb as that was, as dumb as that photo op was that Kristi Noem did, what he's about to do to her here is even dumber. You literally just heard her drop the mic. He's not coming back. He's a terrorist, a gang member, a wife beater. He's not coming back. And the look on his face. Here we go.
Supreme Court decision. Does the Supreme Court decision not require you to facilitate the return of
But my
Mr.
Supreme
Garcia?
Court,
The Trump administration is complying with all court orders and judges' orders.
Does the Supreme Court order require you to facilitate the return of Mr. Abrego Garcia?
Is a
Yes or-
citizen of
yes
El
or no?
Salvador. It is up to the president of the El Salvador to make the decision.
You're a defendant
on
in
if
the
he
case.
is coming back. It's been a big topic of conversation between all of us, between the country. When the president visited the United States of America, it was discussed and talked about there. The president has been very clear on this issue, as the Secretary of State and I have as well. Abrego Garcia is not a citizen of this country and is a dangerous individual who does not belong here.
I will not ask another question,
If he
Madam
were
Chair,
back
but the
in this
discussion,
country, we would immediately
but the discussion
deport him.
ends when the Supreme Court rules 9-0 that you have to facilitate his release. And the fact that you can't even acknowledge.
But again, the Supreme Court could rule that I go to Taco Bell and steal a Supreme Taco. I can't go to Taco Bell and steal a Supreme Taco. I don't own Taco Bell. Supreme Court was out of its fucking mind with that decision. That's all there is to it. Okay. Kristi Noem also was asked about Hurricane Katrina. Or was asked about, was also asked about failures of FEMA by, one of our favorite Congresswoman Rosa DeLorio. Let's go ahead and play that clip.
Where is the evidence of the failure of FEMA?
Congresswoman, we still have claims open from Hurricane Katrina. We have fire claims that are still unpaid to people who said they were due them 7 to 8 to 10 years old. They have never been paid by FEMA. So one of the worst things that the federal government can do is to stand up in front of the American public and say, we will be there. We will walk alongside you in the most horrible time of your life, and then never follow through on it.
Well, that's
what the president has said is he's sick and tired of federal agencies that pick and choose who wins and who loses. He wants to make sure that the federal government's commitment, when it makes a commitment, that it follows through. So he's going to empower states.
The federal government is abdicating its commitment to the American people who find
It did
themselves.
certainly under Joe Biden's administration.
Let
Let
me just say this to you. The Office of Professional Responsibility. The Office of Professional, because I knew you were going to go there. As you know, FEMA's Office of Professional Responsibility, under the Biden administration, there was no evidence, no direction or agency or field leadership to discriminate against disaster victims based on political affiliation, which was a charge.
I'll follow up.
Oh, look, our bureaucrats said our other bureaucrats did a good job, so therefore we didn't do the thing wrong that we were caught doing wrong.
With you,
well, and I will follow up. I will follow up, and I follow up with my colleagues, quite frankly, and to really listen to people whose states, communities have been devastated, and what role FEMA has played. I don't know how many millions and millions of dollars went out in Louisiana. Actually, I've asked my staff to calculate that when Katrina hit, and the response was overwhelming. And the response has been overwhelming. If you want to make corrections, that's fine. We all agree with that.
Yeah, we can point to thousands and thousands of air.
Well, if you wouldn't mind getting this committee, the information and the evidence.
Mind you, that was under the Bush regime. You remember Kanye West. That's one of the things that launched Kanye West into superstardom. Like, he was already a big star, but like that George Bush don't care about black people fucking moment. Like, if you're not old enough to remember that from 2004, like, boom, like that landed Kanye in international newspapers, and boom, like
where you talk about the dysfunction of the agency and where it has really failed. That would be important to those of us who are, are appropriating dollars.
Those of us who are appropriating dollars. Well, again, it's up to you to fund FEMA or don't fund FEMA. It's up to FEMA to send it to the people it's supposed to send it to. And if y'all can't do your fucking jobs, it is what it is. So, yeah, we have all these congressional committees, all this interaction of Congress critters. And now here's Steve Scalise talking about a conversation he had with Kash Patel about the GOP baseball shooting from back in the day, 2017. Oh, wait, shit. Here we go. GOP baseball game shooting.
Well, Sean, God answered a lot of prayers that day, but when the FBI initially pulled those of us from the baseball shooting into a hearing after we got out of the hospital, they called it suicide by cop. And we were so offended, we walked out of the hearing. We said, how can you call that suicide by cop when he tried to kill the two cops that were with me that day? David Bailey and Crystal Griner were both shot during the shootout, and the shooter tried to kill all of us that day. And it was politically motivated, and yet in their report, they said it wasn't politically motivated. And in fact, they withheld facts that the shooter had on his person that showed that he had.
You can shoot at Congress critters, and the FBI will say it's not politically motivated. Now, please don't ever do that, by the way. Let me throw that out there. I didn't realize what the words that were coming out of my mouth until they were coming out of my mouth. Don't shoot at Congress critters. But if you do, like, the FBI is going to say it wasn't politically motivated. Like, you're literally aiming the thing at a politician. There's a political motive somewhere in that.
Had political motivations to then say falsely that it wasn't politically motivated. This begs the question, why was the FBI trying to mislead back in 2017? I applaud Kash Patel for getting the facts out and getting the record corrected. But the FBI in 2017 falsely put out information. Look, Jim Jordan's name was on that shooter's hit list too.
Now, mind you, like I said, who was president at the time? Just because you have a Republican president doesn't mean you have a FEMA that's operating on behalf of conservatism. Just because you have an FBI who's operating under a Republican president doesn't mean you have an FBI who have conservative values. This is why the Trump administration and Doge and all the firings, all the rooting through the corruption of all of these federal government organizations, all of the quote-unquote political firings. Yes, I will say they were political firings. Why? Because you can't have this shit. You can't have the politically motivated lies.
And he had very dire intentions to kill Republicans. That's what he said he wanted to do. It wasn't suicide by cop, and yet the report by the FBI initially tried to claim it was. It was false.
So yeah, Steve Scalise talking to Kash Patel and found out that it's not. It was clearly left-wing politically motivated violence. That's not all the Kash Patel news we have. We also had Kash Patel come out and talk about the FBI's search for child predators and some successes that were made this week. We got a 3-minute clip here, and it starts off here with Pam Bondi handing over the podium to Kash Patel. Let's listen in here.
First and foremost, to the Department of Justice under General Bondi's leadership and all its components, because of your courage, we are here today protecting our most vulnerable, our children. Thank you, General Bondi. Thank you to so many of your colleagues here today that do this work tirelessly day in and day out.
Well, we got a bunch of thank yous. So while we're doing that,
all of them today.
Let me just say,
as the FBI director, I'm humbled to lead some of the bravest men and women in law enforcement And I want to
Brave
thank our
men and
55
women.
field offices,
Now, look,
our 90
if you're
plus United
involved
States
in
attorneys offices, our
getting child
CIOS
predators
section, our
off the
CRIM
street,
division here at the Department of Justice, and our
cheers to
field
you.
offices throughout the country with lawyers and prosecutors and agents working tirelessly on some of the harshest criminality we've ever seen. They don't take breaks because our children deserve a free and open society. I also want to just take a moment to
He looks a little uncomfortable
emphasize
in
the
front of the
priority
mic.
of this Department of Justice and this FBI. Our children. If you harm our children, you will be given no sanctuary. There is no place
He's very
we will not
confident
come
in
to hunt you down.
ex-posts, but he looks a
There
little
is no
uncomfortable
place we
behind the
will
mic.
not look for you. And there is no cage we will not put you in should you do harm to our children. The prioritization of this administration and General Bondi has made it abundantly clear to child predators, you will be hunted down and you will be prosecuted.
Okay, let's
And
get
that
into
is
it.
a refreshing thing to hear for the men and women who do this work
I agree.
tirelessly.
You should be
And
hunted
it's
down.
also an acknowledgement of the
But
safety
you've been
that
saying
we
that
look
for
forward to
3
bringing
months.
America.
Let's get into the meat of the
As the Attorney
meat and
General
potatoes here.
mentioned, there are a couple of cases worth highlighting. People in places of public trust have violated not only the law, but that public trust, to
Okay.
include teachers, law enforcement personnel,
Law enforcement.
and other professionals that we look
Disgusting.
to safeguard our children.
Now look, we see these news stories every day of these female teachers. You know, we covered 2 of them on the show. Two women in Florida just last week who were grooming young boys to have sex with. So, you know, definitely get these pedophiles off the street.
Not only violated the law, but violated the trust. In Minneapolis, defendant Jeremy Francis Plonsky, a Minneapolis
Jeremy
state trooper and
Plonsky,
former Army
Minneapolis
reservist,
trooper,
was arrested for producing child sexual abuse material while
Producing
in uniform.
CP
Not
in
anymore.
uniform.
In Norfolk, Virginia,
In police uniform, producing CP. You can see the blue in the CP.
defendant Jose Alexis Valdez
Disgusting.
Sosa, an illegal immigrant from Mexico,
Jose Sosa.
again, allegedly arrested for transporting a minor across state lines.
Transporting a minor across state lines, I'm assuming for the purposes of exploitation.
No more. Another example, right here in Washington, D.C., in the Metropolitan Police Department, Officer Linwood Barnhill.
Linwood Barnhill of Washington, D.C. Police. Right there in our nation's capital. Where the Congress critters and the defense contractors and the pharmaceutical representatives and, you know, the swamp. You know, let's just traffic in children there, right? The police are in on it, or some of them anyway.
A former already convicted sex offender was arrested again for exploiting more victims, more children, while on supervised release. These are just 3 examples that show you the extent and the depravity of these horrific crimes. And we need to team up together with the American public to find the rest. I want to give a special thanks to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children for the tireless work they do in partnering with us. And again, I want to thank the Department of Justice and all these folks here. And Pam, thank you for never wavering to defend our children.
You know, again, never speak to cops unless you know which one of them are child molesters. So yeah, Pam Bondi is sort of on a media tour right now, talking about all of the child abuse cases. And this is, again, I think this might be the same press conference. I'm not sure. This is from ESPN, where she was asked about the Jeffrey Epstein stuff. And let's get into it. Oh, shit. I hit pause before I had it up on screen. She was asked about the Jeffrey Epstein stuff. So Pam Bondi's definitely trying to win some brownie points back on the taking down of child predators. But again, I'm not going to hold my breath. Like, we want to see some progress here on this case.
James Comer said yesterday that all the Epstein files are missing. Can you confirm what was said?
Okay, so he said James Comer said that the Epstein files are missing. Can you comment on that? And she got this exasperated look on her face. So let's hear what she has to say about it.
No, the FBI, the FBI, they're reviewing, there are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn. And there are hundreds of victims. And no one victim will ever get released. It's just the volume, and that's what they're going through right now. The FBI is diligently going through that. I haven't seen that statement, but I'll.
Okay, but you're saying that these are videos of Jeffrey. Listen to how carefully she's choosing her words. She's pinning it all on Jeffrey. No clients, no celebrities, no politicians. These are videos of Jeffrey and children, or videos of children. No clients.
Call him later and find out.
No clients. Pam Bondi, this is starting to get a little suspect. Like you keep making these declarations that you have all of this information about the Epstein case. That you have all these files and all of this evidence. And yet still the only people who are ever being implicated are Jeffrey and Ghislaine. Why is that? Why is that? What about the people who flew to Lolita Island? What about the people known, like the person who we allegedly lost from the earth last week? Known to be victims of these people. Known to have interacted with these people. We got a couple videos from James O'Keefe from O'Keefe Media Group, who does the ambush style journalism. And big shout out to James O'Keefe. I'm a big supporter of the ambush style journalism. We got a couple videos about him involving the Jeffrey case. And the first one involves the clip you just saw with Pam Bondi. He definitely wanted to talk about the Pam Bondi situation. And you know, again, why has it taken so long to get more information on the Jeffrey stuff? And basically, here we go.
Attorney General of the United States Pam Bondi was at the White House and disclosed what she represented as brand new information in relation to Jeffrey Epstein, the existence of tens of thousands of videos featuring little children.
There are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn.
Now, this is the first time an official has publicly acknowledged that videos of Epstein and his victims exist. What you may not know is just 9 days prior, the Attorney General had a very similar conversation with a total stranger in a restaurant.
Do you know when the Epstein files are going to get released?
We hope soon. The FBI's been.
Okay.
So.
Any dates?
Okay.
No, you know what it is?
Notice the citizen journalist here said files. Epstein files. Right? The little black book. We want the little black book. We want names. We want celebrities. We want people to be arrested. We want the clients to be charged with child trafficking. We can't prosecute a dead guy. Allegedly dead. We can't prosecute an allegedly dead guy. And we've already got his girlfriend behind bars. We want the rest of the people involved in the circle. And Miss Gouffre, Virginia Gouffre, her name was Virginia, right? Shit, I'm having a brain fart. Virginia Gouffre being accused of Clintoning herself, being accused of Epsteining herself, allegedly no longer walking the earth, because she was so depressed that she did the one thing she said she would never do. The one witness who has been the most vocal, the brightest face for justice in this case, now allegedly gone, along with the one person you're pointing the finger at, allegedly gone. We want the files, the files. I don't need to see videos of child porno. Just document the celebrities or politicians or clients of Jeffrey, who might not be celebrities or politicians, just the clients of Jeffrey who are in these videos. Document them, arrest them, charge them, and send them up the river to fry.
Tens and thousands of videos. Yeah, and it's all with little kids, so they have to go through every one.
Oh, look, the FBI's got to go through thousands of videos. How long ago was the Epstein arrest? It was during the first Trump administration. What date was that? He died in 2019, so it was like 2018, right? I mean, the first arrest was like 10 years earlier. Jesus. I'm not trying to get into the whole case here. When was he arrested? July 6th, 2019. July 6th of 2019. Almost 6 years ago. 5 years and 10 months. 5 years and 10 months.
Officials have spoken about the, quote, mountain of evidence in the Epstein case, but they've never, previous to that moment, acknowledged on the existence.
Now, granted, Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, Dan Bongino, they've only been on the job a few months now. But the idea that there's nobody at the FBI in the past 5 years and 10 months who has gone through this evidence and can tell you what they're going to find and where to find it, nobody willing to cooperate with this investigation, I don't know, I find it unlikely.
Of videos of, quote, little kids. Just a few days later, at 2 p.m. on May 1st, our reporter sent the AG's office the text of the recording. We asked why this detail had not been disclosed to the public, but was instead being told to a random stranger at a restaurant. The Attorney General used almost the exact same language as she did with the stranger in the restaurant, language that we shared with her press office.
There are tens and thousands of videos. Yeah, and it's all with little kids.
There are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn.
Now, we hesitated to publish this story, but believe, like we did yesterday, that the public has a right to know. And this one raises serious questions. On one hand, why did our country's highest law enforcement official...
Did Rumble just take a dump? I just lost like half my viewers. Somebody go live at 7:30 that I'm not aware of? Is there a big show that just started? Oh, Salty Cracker just started, didn't he? All right. Well, that's good to know for future Fridays, but hey, I'll take the views I can get. Cheers and welcome.
Share this information first, not with the American people.
Hey, we got still not banned here.
Nanny at brunch. But
good
more
seeing
importantly,
you in the chat.
Why was this information held back in the first place?
Here, I'll give you the I love refrigerators.
I love refrigerators.
And, you know, when it comes to Pam Bondi, hey, you know, I've just got to say this.
My detector test determined that was a lie.
Does this show that a government apparatus is still working behind the scenes to protect powerful people involved in the scandal? Based upon the response to our Epstein story yesterday, it's clear that the American people want answers.
And okay, so big shout out to James O'Keefe. And again, if he hadn't have done that story, then would we know anything about this? Would we know a damn thing about any of this? Now, granted, I don't think the information we got is worth a damn. Because again, if you know, you have a dead guy who trafficked children, including a witness who's now dead, allegedly, with his mistress who's now in prison for the rest of her life, to allegedly nobody. And it takes O'Keefe setting up a hidden camera in a restaurant to at least get her to admit that, yeah, we still have files, we have videotapes that we're going through. But yet, they're not telling us who else is in those videotapes. Or if there are, like, won't even admit that there are other people in the videotapes, just Jeffrey and children. And if you buy that, then I'll sell you Greenland. But that's not the only Epstein news that James O'Keefe helped break this week. James O'Keefe did another one of his undercover operations with John Bryan, Christ's advisor to the British royal family. And we'll see a little bit of the undercover behind the scenes here.
He was in the Navy. He was 250 days at sea. He never saw his kid. I was really pissed because he lied to me. Epstein. And then I did a big thing in the Daily Mail saying that I believed Andrew. And then I found out he was lying. I was so pissed. No, he was f***ing underage girls. That's not cool.
John Bryan has been a close
Okay, so as with most O'Keefe stuff, like they put the spiciest stuff at the beginning. Shout out to James O'Keefe. Thank you for that. So yeah, you just heard an advisor to Prince Andrew, an advisor to the royal family, a Christ's advisor to the royal family telling you. I came out in the media. I defended Prince Andrew. I said it was all wrong, and then I believed his version of events. And I found out he was lying to me. That he was screwing underage girls. And that he was tied in with this whole Epstein thing. Again, shout out to James O'Keefe. You're doing God's work. It's kind of dirty journalism, but we need dirty journalism in a time where government is full of liars and thieves and pedophiles. You know what? I'm not going to do that story. Okay, let's skip to J.D. Vance. So I try not to cover a bunch of war news. I don't care much about the wars going on. But we did have a new war pop off this week. And quite frankly, India and Pakistan, you got two allegedly nuclear countries who, you know, have shared a border for quite some time and are pretty somewhat similar in cultures, but yet have been pretty hostile to each other for several generations. And we kind of hoped that hostility had petered out quite a bit, but it has not. And of course, people want the Trump administration to get involved. Well, the vice president decided to weigh in, or was asked about it rather, and so he gave the take. Still not being here said not cool. Yeah. Vice President gave the Trump administration response to the India-Pakistan conflict, and let's hear it from the horse's mouth.
You were in India recently, and there was some feeling that that might lead to one of the trade agreements announced.
But yes, so he did recently visit India, and his wife is, I believe, of Indian descent, correct?
We just heard the UK agreement with the United States.
Sure.
How concerned is the administration about the potential for nuclear war between India and Pakistan?
Well, look, we're concerned about any time nuclear powers collide and have a major conflict. What we've said, what Secretary Rubio said, and certainly the president has said, is we want this thing to de-escalate as quickly as possible. We can't control these countries, though. Fundamentally, India has its gripes with Pakistan. Pakistan has responded to India. What we can do is try to encourage these folks to de-escalate a little bit, but we're not going to get involved in the middle of war that's fundamentally none of our business and has nothing to do with America's ability to control it. You know, America can't tell the Indians to lay down their arms. We can't tell the Pakistanis to lay down their arms. And so we're going to continue to pursue this thing through diplomatic channels. Our hope and our expectation is that this is not going to spiral into a broader regional war or, God forbid, a nuclear conflict. But sure, we're worried about these things. But I think the job of diplomacy, but also the job of cooler heads in India and Pakistan, is to make sure this doesn't become a nuclear war. If it happened, of course, it would be disastrous. Right now, we don't think that's going to happen.
Okay, there you have it. There you have it, from the horse's mouth, from the vice president himself. Now, look. That's why when I do talk about war, I play clips like that, because I'm anti-war. I'm anti-war. And quite frankly, every day I get on X or I browse the news feeds, and there will inevitably be some Twitter post, some blog news story about Trump rebukes Putin. Trump has harsh words for Netanyahu. And then, like, you look at it, and it's like, Trump essentially said, yeah, we need peace. We need to come to the table. We got to make a deal. And, you know, anybody being hostile to the idea of making a deal or a peace deal, like, you're holding up the process here. I mean, that's literally the harsh words Trump has had for any of these people. Sangland says, I hope Appa and family are somewhere safe. And so, quite frankly, that's why I avoid most of the war reporting, because it's real easy to bite into these salacious headlines and then they turn out to be nothing. If we have an actual peace deal on the table, like we have a couple times in both of these conflicts, we've had a peace deal on the table. And of course, someone always launches that first rocket or, you know, violates a territory that was involved in the peace deal and, you know, falls apart. But ultimately, Trump's got to deal with these people. Trump's got to do diplomacy with these people. And more importantly, Secretary Rubio has to do diplomacy with these people and ordering them around, acting like the United States is the world police who can just boss around countries like India, Pakistan, Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Gaza. It's none of our business. Quite frankly, I've got to go with what the vice president said in that clip. We can offer diplomacy. We can't make them put their guns down. Okay, so I initially had the next story queued up because I wanted to talk about it right after all the Epstein stuff we talked about a little bit ago. But, you know, the current generation, they're not talking about Epstein as much as they're talking about good old P. Diddy. Sean Puffy Combs. The Sean Puffy Combs trial has officially kicked off with jury selection this week. And let's see. Rapper 50 Cent weighed in on the jury selection. He thinks the jury should be made up of 50 Cent. You gotta love 50 Cent calling out Diddy all over the place every day. You fucking love it. I love 50 Cent's sense of humor. But no, the Diddy trial is pretty interesting and pretty damning. You know, there are alleged Jeffrey Epstein type situations happening. People underemploy of Diddy alleging that there were sex acts and forced things happening. And of course, multiple ex-girlfriends claiming improprieties of Diddy. And again, these are all allegations that will be hashed out during the trial. But like I said, jury selection has been happening most of the week, and it's been challenging because the judge in the case has said that they don't want jurors who have been tainted by their opinion of Diddy, by their opinions of sexual assault. So they want to kind of make sure they're not picking anyone who has heard of the situation that Diddy is in. And they also do not want to pick people who have been personally impacted by instances of sexual assault. And so it's been a challenge, and the jury selection process has now taken several days. Still Not Banned here says, like LeBron James. And Sanglet says, we need a video of one of the Diddyites saying his parties are better than Epstein's. Oh, shit. Well, the fact that the Epstein parties kind of stopped, and then the white parties kind of kicking off with all these celebrities, I think that's... Okay, so yeah, Still Not Banned here was answering Sanglant. Okay, gotcha. I'd take any connection, yeah. So yeah, the jury selection process is now into its like fourth or fifth day. They're in the middle of the third round, and they're trying to narrow it down to 12 jurors and 6 alternates. And let me bring this up from People Magazine. There was a potential juror scrapped because she, quote, thinks Diddy can buy his way out of jail. That was from Liam Quinn and Elizabeth Rosner of People Magazine. A prospective juror in the Sean Combs trial was dismissed after telling the judge that she believed he could, quote, possibly buy his way out of jail. The admission was made on the second day of jury selection, during which potential jurors are screened on Tuesday, May 6th in federal court in Manhattan. Diddy has a lot of money to use at his discretion and can possibly buy his way out of jail, a 48-year-old woman said in court. When U.S. District Judge Arun Subramanian asked the woman what she meant, she responded by saying, I don't know how to explain it. The prospective juror also said someone once attempted to R-word her and appeared to criticize the police response. The cops could do a lot more, but there's only so much you can, she said. You got to have a clean slate about everything. The woman was subsequently dismissed. Combs is charged with sex trafficking, racketeering, and transportation to engage in prostitution and has pled not guilty. On the first day of jury selection, Combs, now sporting gray hair, told the judge he was a little nervous and was granted a 2-minute bathroom break. Potential jurors were also asked if they were familiar with celebrities like Kanye, Michael B. Jordan, Mike Myers, and Kid Cudi, though that doesn't necessarily mean any of them would testify. Also mentioned was Cassie Ventura, Combs' ex, who's set to testify under her real name. Sources told People that Jordan would not be called to testify at the trial and confirmed his name was mentioned because of a brief former relationship with Cassie in 2015. The indictment centers around the freak-offs, which were elaborate and produced sex performances organized by Combs involving women who they say were forced or coerced, and male sex workers. If convicted, Combs is facing life. In the months since his arrest, he's been behind bars, having been denied bail 3 times. And I read another article. I thought they were going to mention it in here, that another potential juror was released because of concerns that there were. They mentioned they were concerned with their own safety. They were concerned with their own safety. And I guess a bunch of them are starting to say that. Which makes you wonder, have they been identified by connected people? And now we have today in the Diddy case, jury selection is now facing trial delays. Final steps of the trial have been pushed back to Monday. There are fears that selected jurors may back out of serving on the highly publicized case. Blah, 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 faces. Preemptory strikes, during which the defense and prosecution will narrow down dozens of potential jurors to 12 people, were originally expected to take place on Wednesday. Judge Submaranian finished questioning the jury pool that day, but was asked by both legal teams to delay strikes until Friday in case jurors raised additional concerns or laid grounds for the dismissal in interim. On Friday morning, prosecutors informed the judge that one of the jurors emailed the court with issues related to, quote, her personal well-being would prevent her from serving. Upon seeing that the judge was open to further delaying the strikes, defense attorney Mark Agnafilo advocated waiting until Monday, the day opening statements are scheduled to begin. I think if we started court even 15 minutes early, we'd still start proceedings on time, he told the judge. The U.S. Attorney's Office resisted the delay. We're working against a clock on our end that we're very cognizant of, prosecutor Maureen Comey explained. And ultimately, the judge ruled in favor of the delay. The current pool of jurors will be called to court on Monday morning so strikes can be conducted. Combs sat next to his attorneys as the judge announced. Okay, we already covered the rest of that. So shout out to NPR's Isabella Gomez Sarmiento. Thank you, NPR, for that. All right. What do we have? Okay. Oh, we still got plenty of Diddy stuff. So as you can tell from the title of the live stream, with any court case, you rely on witness testimony. And we kind of talked about Cassie being witness number one, right? Well, we have a missing victim. Diddy trial thrown into chaos as a key witness goes missing. Star witness in the Diddy Combs trial is reportedly missing in action, throwing the sex trafficking case into chaos. Opening statements are set to begin next week, but federal prosecutors have been scrambling. They can't find one of the female victims central to their case. She does not live in New York where the trial is being held. Lead prosecutor Comey told the judge on Wednesday they're having a difficult time contacting victim 3 and her attorney. Prosecutors had mentioned victim 3 plans to disclose very personal and explosive details concerning abuse she allegedly suffered. Comey told the judge that even if they're unable to reach the unnamed victim, she may not show up. Defense attorney Tenny Garagos demanded that the prosecution make a decision by the end of the week whether they still plan to call victim 3 to testify. Prosecutors' admission that they cannot reach one of their star witnesses came as a shock after they told the judge in an April 29th memo that victim 3 did not wish to use a pseudonym. Prosecutors filed a third superseding indictment in April that added an additional charge of trafficking and transportation to engage in prostitution related to victim 3. Combs is now facing a total of 5 counts, including racketeering, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution connected to the 4 alleged victims who were forced to participate in drug-fueled freak-offs, alleged by the claim. Combs' legal team said the addition of charges are nothing new. These are not new allegations or new accusers. These are the same individuals, former long-term girlfriends who were involved in consensual relationships. This was their private sex life, defined by consent, not coercion, said the defense attorneys. Prosecutors tried to downplay the bombshell news that one of their star witnesses are possibly dropping from the case. Comey told the judge there are still many, many acts of racketeering apart from victim 3. The identity remains unknown to the public, Garagos said in court. The woman has been around Combs for a long time. Okay, and then we know about victim number 1. Okay, and now they're talking about the jury stuff we've already covered. So shout out to the Daily Mail's Marjorie Hernandez, West Coast news editor for dailymail.com. Okay. And then we have a little further on this story about Victim 3 from TMZ. Victim 3 never wanted to cooperate with feds and never wanted to testify. A federal prosecutor is taking a big gamble with one of their star witnesses because the woman they call Victim 3 has always made it clear she does not want to testify. During jury selection, prosecutor admitted that the feds do not know whether the victim, one of Diddy's ex-girlfriends, intends to appear in court against him. Comey said the woman does not live locally. Okay, we heard about that. There's an issue getting in touch with her attorney, and she may not even show up to court despite the subpoena. TMZ sources with direct knowledge say the woman has never cooperated with prosecutors and never gave them an indication she'd be willing to take the stand. It begs the question, why did prosecutors add the indictment, and will they address her absence next week during opening statements? At this point, it's unclear who they're going to call to testify. Prosecutors have some big decisions to make with Victim 3. Will they refer to her opening statement, and if they do and she ghosts them, will the jury wonder what's going on? Prosecutors said they would not be getting into her story until the second part of the trial, and during opening statements, the woman would be described as one of many women who have alleged to have been abused and exploited. The indictment labels her as a victim of alleged sex trafficking. Okay, we know all this. But yes, you have a TMZ source, an alleged TMZ source. Make of that what you will. Sometimes they've been spot on. Sometimes they've been completely fucking wrong. Alleging that, this chick never wanted to testify in the first place. Okay. Back into the Trump administration for a minute. Because there has been yet another one of these conversations that has erupted on X, on the Twitter sphere, between conservatives, that has divided conservatives, that has made conservatives question each other and their conservative values and their Christian beliefs and their conservatism. And I just want to say up front that there's no one more than me that loves shitting on feminism. But we had this post on X from Isabella Moody about the White House press secretary Caroline Leavitt. There was this photo that went viral of Caroline Leavitt. I think Caroline Leavitt posted it herself, of her working while feeding her child. Boom. This photo. And so you have Isabella Moody saying, this baby needs a full-time mother and America needs a full-time White House press secretary. Mothers belong at home with their babies, not pretending to serve this nation. And of course, down here you got Andrew Branca. Got Andrew Branca with Karine Jean-Pierre dressed like a clown. I mean, Andrew Branca has a point. Like, this isn't the clown world we were living in before. And look, I could agree with Isabella Moody, and then down here, Rachel Wilson giving the 100. Look, I agree. Women, especially mothers, they're better off being mothers than career women. But they're going to do it anyway. What are you going to do? Stop them? You put a gun to their head? It's 2025. Feminism has ruined a lot of the country. At best, it's kind of like all the Democrats that came out and said, I hope Donald Trump fails to make America great again. I hope Donald Trump fails to make America great again. I hope America collapses. I hope the economy collapses. They were rooting for economies to... Dude, why would you root for the country to fail? Whether or not Caroline Leavitt is a good mother doesn't fucking matter to me. Now, granted, I hope the kid doesn't grow up to become a violent leftist. Republicans do tend to like raise leftist children, which is insane. Some of them definitely try to instill some conservative values in your kids, because if they do become leftists, hopefully they can, like, some of their traditionalism can kick back in at some points in their brain, and they can push back against some of the crazier parts of the far left. We kind of need some moderate leftists, they just make sure they don't go off the deep end. But anyway, Sangline says just the rhinos. Yeah, the rhinos are the ones having all the far leftist kids. But this idea that conservative women can't work, shouldn't work, look, I'm kind of supportive of that to some degree. But so far we've been shown nothing that would suggest that the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, is bad at either of these duties. We have no evidence of either of that. Now, granted, we're not going to be given evidence of it because, frankly, when you're the White House press secretary, you're sort of literally the top of the PR food chain, so to speak. Like, you're there to do the PR job of the PR job. So we're not going to get that kind of evidence. But I could tell you what, the lady on the right-hand side, Karine Jean-Pierre, she was definitely not good at that job. And she didn't have kids, I don't believe. Yeah, wasn't she playing for the same team? Oh shit. Sorry, I'm trying to get this fucking interference in my mic. Sorry, folks. The humming is bothering the hell out of me. There we go. I made it stop. I'm so sorry to everyone whose ears I just blasted with that. But I could hear it really, really low, and the only way to get it to go away is make it real big and then try to fix it. Okay, hopefully that's helped out a lot. But yeah, Karine Jean-Pierre was the face of PR failure. Everything she said was an obvious lie. Now, granted, I don't think Caroline Leavitt has always told the truth when talking about Trump and his plans. But she's there to make it at least fight back against a media who's always going to tell the worst side of the story, who's always going to frame Trump in the worst light. That's what her job is for. And quite frankly, I think she does an amazing job at it. Now, whether or not the kid's going to grow up to be a transgender or we call it a drag queen, or that has yet to be seen. But, it's kind of like there are plenty of examples we could use as to why conservative women shouldn't be career women and family women at the same time. I don't think this individual right here is one of them.
You noted he is a successful businessman. Do you know if the president has any plans to meet with any of the folks involved with any of the family businesses over there, or see any of the sites that are going to be
Not to my knowledge, and let me just get to the premise of your question that both of you have raised. I think it's frankly ridiculous that anyone in this room would even suggest that President Trump is doing anything for his own benefit. He left a life of luxury and a life of running a very successful real estate empire for public service, not just once, but twice. And again, the American public reelected him back to this White House because they trust he acts in the best interest of our country and putting the American public first. This is a president who has actually lost money for being president of the United States. I don't remember these same type of questions being asked of my predecessor about a career politician who was clearly profiting off of this office. That is not what President Trump does, and this White House holds ourselves to the highest of ethical standards.
You know.
Boom. Fucking mic drop. You're telling me this isn't a full-time press secretary You're telling me this lady shouldn't be in the career she's in? I don't care if she has babies or not. She's doing the job America needs her to do. And again, I'm not just simping for the pretty blonde lady. I want to make that clear. You just heard me fucking totally not simping over the other pretty blonde lady in the Trump administration, Pam Bondi. Can't fucking stand all these fucking women in this administration. Sorry. I'm a little misogynist. I warned you folks the misogyny would be coming, and here it is. And quite frankly, I haven't agreed with some of the things that this press secretary has said. I think she has misframed some of these news stories, but that's the job, to frame Donald Trump and his policies in the most favorable light. And she's doing an amazing job. And that baby didn't look like it was hungry. It was getting fed. Whether or not you should be feeding your baby at work, we could have a whole discussion about that. I think we've had that discussion on this show before. Especially, we were talking about the Congresswoman, Anna Paulina Luna, and the other Congresswomen complaining that they couldn't come to Congress and vote and had to bring their babies on the congressional floor, even though we pay for a congressional daycare. Had to bring their babies on the congressional floor to vote because, damn it, we just won't let them vote from their couches. And yet, here's this woman posts a photo of her just typing away at a keyboard with a baby in a bottle. And all of a sudden, these conservatives, bootstraps, right? The bootstraps argument. Lift yourself up by your bootstraps. Do some hard work. Earn a living. Pay your student loans. Are going to admonish this woman for typing a few words on a keyboard and taking a picture while holding a baby. It's hey, we got Rusty Rivers saying Rumble's broken. He's on the screw tube. Cheers and welcome, Rusty Rivers. Good seeing you. Cheers. Yeah. I knew Rumble was going to screw me tonight. But hey, we have had like 14, 15 people in here, in and out throughout the night. Not quite enough to start an ad read. But hey, if I can make my 3 hours, if I could get 8 people to watch the whole 3 hours, that's oh shit, no, I don't want to do that. Back to live chat. There we go. If I could get 8 people to watch the whole 3 hours of the program tonight, I'm already way ahead for the month. I mean, that's my goal, to do this show on Fridays now instead of an hour on Wednesdays and an hour on Saturdays. Boom, 3 hours on Fridays. We make it a party. And definitely I hope to get at least 6 to 8 people that are willing to watch me every Friday. Again, it could be a dream, but I'm hoping to make this channel at least make enough money to support itself. I finally got the money in hand from March, and we'll be receiving no money for April, so I'm trying to make this May thing work. And big cheers to Rusty Rivers. Oh yeah, I need to give you a sound effect. What do we got here? Let's go. Let's do Lord, It's a Damn Shame. Is it going to play?
Lord, it's a damn shame.
There we go. Lord, it's a damn shame. All right. Okay, Chris Pavlovsky. Okay, we'll share this. Okay, so yes, Rumble's down again. Chris Pavlovsky says the DDoS attacks on Rumble today are still continuing. I don't remember the last time something this distributed hit Rumble, and for this long, it's very suspicious. We're all hands on deck right now. And got our buddy Daramuth and Bill Dozer thanking for the update. Hope it's up and running tomorrow. Get more security. All right, you got various rumblers providing their 2 cents. Okay. All right. Oh dear Lord. Okay, so we still got other stuff to cover. Okay, let's get into the racism. So we covered on the last program the Saturday show, the 3-hour Saturday show, which was kind of a taste of things to come. We covered this mother up in Minnesota. Mild admonishment orgy? What? Never mind me, just a random neon sign that popped into my head. I mean, dude, Mild's admonishment orgy. Like, that could potentially be a show segment. I actually kind of like the way that sounds. That could be a show segment. And you know, I'm almost considering trying to do a little bit of merch. I don't know though. I don't know. I don't know if I'm the merch kind of guy. I suck. I literally suck at PR. I suck at marketing. But anyway, as I was saying, we had this news story that got way out of control about the
over a
and a mother in Minnesota allegedly saying the N-word to a child. We got Matt Walsh weighing in on it. And I'm going to play a little bit of, I'm going to jump around a little bit in this Matt Walsh clip. So yeah, we covered it on the last show. And I'm just kind of reiterate that, again, I don't think it's been proven that this, and Matt Walsh is going to say some of this too. I should just let him speak. Fuck it. Let's get into Matt Walsh.
The mob that tried unsuccessfully to cancel Shiloh Hendricks was far, far more outraged over Shiloh saying the N-word than they were over Carmelo Anthony stabbing somebody to death. Indeed, many of them.
Okay, let me just start off. Let me pause him right there and say, I think it's a little bit disingenuous to compare these two cases. I think it's we're entering an area of whataboutism that, while somewhat valid, it's not. There's a false equivalency here, right? Carmelo Anthony is, was arrested. He's not in prison now. He got let out and had the bond money before anyone donated to him. So, I mean, go figure. I'm definitely not trying to make excuses for Carmelo Anthony or for the people who donated to him. But being on trial for something that could put you away for the rest of your life. And I'm not going to make the comparison to Kyle Rittenhouse. I want to make that clear. I do not want this compared to Kyle Rittenhouse. But if your supporters do believe your actions were quote unquote self-defense, like, there's some validity to that. Like, you're on trial for your life and your supporters believe you were justified in taking a life. Now, granted, I agree with Matt Walsh. It was murder. I agree with most conservatives. I agree with most of the white people around this debate that the Carmelo Anthony situation, clear-cut, open and shut murder. I mean, I'm sure eventually in the trial, we're going to hear some testimony that the two brothers were bullies, that they were ordering him out of the tent, that there might have been some history between the two of them. We're going to hear something come up in the trial. If I'm wrong about the murder, and it turned out that these two white dudes, the Metcalf boys, were aggressive and that the kid didn't know where he was, which I don't believe. I think he knew exactly where he was. I think he went there looking for a fight. But if we hear otherwise, I may change my mind on this. I'm open-minded enough to say that sometimes these news stories get sensationalized in the media when they happen, and then when the court case comes out and the details come out, like, and again, I don't want to make the full-on comparison to Kyle Rittenhouse, but think about it. Mainstream media said Kyle Rittenhouse shot 3 Black Lives Matter protesters that were black. Turns out that these were all random rioters who were using the BLM protests to do destruction. And they were white dudes. One of them who got out of a mental institution, one who traveled several miles across the state to be there, and one who was local. Rusty Rivers said, "Look, I traveled to Screw Tube and there's no cookie." She was in here before the stream, said hi a couple times, but since I went live, she hasn't popped her head in. Go figure. She'll catch me on demand later, hopefully. Cheers to everyone who's watching me on demand. Be sure you click that like button. And leave a damn comment. Aggression doesn't equal murder. Rusty Rivers. It does. Yeah, it doesn't always. But you know, I'm remembering a case that I heard. I think it was out of Florida. What was that? Let's see. Chad Olson. Okay, let me bring this up real quick. Because why not? Why not go down some rabbit holes? I followed the Chad Olson case on Law of Self-Defense. We were talking about Andrew Branca earlier. Law of Self-Defense was covering this Chad Olson case with Nick Rekieta. And he went to watch the movie Lone Survivor, and he's a retired law enforcement officer in his 60s. So, you know, not necessarily a built buff guy, but he was a law enforcement officer. And he was carrying. He was concealed carrying. He whopped out his cell phone. Don't ever fucking do that. Don't pull out your cell phone during the movies. Or wait, no, Olson was the victim. That's right. Olson was the victim, and is Nicole. And then you had Curtis Reeves, right? Curtis Reeves was the defendant in the trial. He and his wife were watching the movies. Olson used his cell phone. Reeves told him to turn off his damn cell phone. Reeves then went out of the theater to complain to personnel and returned to his seat. So the old man went and snitched. And then Chad Olson threw popcorn at Reeves and now see, again, Wikipedia is scum because Wikipedia doesn't say what happened at the time. Like, there's, again, the media. Well, remember what I said about the Rittenhouse case? And the mainstream media gets it wrong. The media were saying it was about throwing popcorn. No. He hulked over him with the popcorn bucket flying. Like, he hulked over him. Like he was about to beat the old dude to death. And Reeves pulled out a handgun and fired, fatally wounding him. And in 2017, judge ruled that Reeves could not take shelter under the stand your ground law, which means he couldn't retreat. Leaving the a decision that would later be overturned on appeal, leaving the determination of self-defense to the jury. 8 years after the event, Reeves was acquitted of second-degree murder. So yeah, I do think that the Curtis Reeves trial is good precedent for the idea that if it's found that the Metcalf boys were aggressively interacting with Carmelo Anthony, that there could be potentially the idea of self-defense raised in a more valid way. Again, I don't think the details of the case are different, right? Curtis Reeves bought a ticket to the movie theater. right? Whereas our Carmelo Anthony was sitting where he allegedly wasn't supposed to be. Yeah, Rusty Rivers says, yeah, there's still no reason for murder. Throw fists like an adult. I agree. I fully agree. But, you know, again, one of the reasons you carry a weapon is because you might wind up with an aggressor who's a bigger guy and would just beat you to a pulp. I mean, that's sort of the point of carrying a weapon. Anyway, where was I? Oh, I was Matt Walsh. Let's go back to Matt Walsh. I went down a whole rabbit hole. Go back to Matt Walsh.
Them actively supported Carmelo Anthony murdering Austin Metcalf. They rewarded him financially for it. And this is all part of the...
See, now, again, this is where I'm going to agree with these folks. Now, again, you know, you're going to crowdfund, yes, but several $100,000, they're up to over $250,000.
Preposterous racial double standard that has defined American culture for generations now. It is a double standard that declares it a greater crime for a white person to say a word than for a black person to kill a white person. In fact, killing a white person could even be a just punishment for saying that word, according to these standards. The rules surrounding this word, the moral weight...
Again, I don't disagree with Matt Walsh, but again, the Supreme Court has ruled that there is a such thing as fighting words. There are words you can utter, like a threat to some degree, and there are other things to where it's not quite throwing a punch, but it might as well be.
Granted to it, the arbitrary guidelines drawn around it, it's all nonsense. It's all indefensible on both moral and intellectual grounds. People are fed up with it. That's what you're seeing in this story. People are just fed up with it. Now, that child, if he's like the average black child in this country, did not hear the N-word for the first time from a white woman at the park last week. Okay? He's no doubt heard it thousands of times. He likely hears it every...
Okay, but this is speculation. I don't disagree with the speculation. Most likely you're correct. But also I think there's a lot of evidence that this child might have been related. I say a lot of evidence. I mean, I don't really have a whole lot. This is speculation too. Might have been related to the person that was filming. If that was the case, perhaps he grew up in more of a West African type of household and not an African American type of household. We can't prove that that child had ever heard the N-word before. Maybe he turned on Kanye's new track. I don't know.
Every day. He probably hears it in his own home. Are we supposed to believe that he's heard the word 1,000 times, but it's time 1,001 that really traumatized?
Okay, again, that's an assumption. So, I mean, you're making a conclusion based on speculation.
Him. I mean, the idea that the word is a common greeting for one race, but unspeakably evil if uttered by a different race, is laughably ridiculous. The idea that one race can say the word 10,000 times a day and the other race cannot speak the syllables under any circumstance, even if they're just repeating what someone else said or singing along to a rap song, that idea, again, is totally indefensible, which is why no one has ever tried to defend it. Instead, it's just yet another, racial rule of the road.
Say the word then.
That we're supposed to follow without ever asking any questions about it or expecting anyone to explain it or justify it.
Piers Morgan would ask him to say the word. We'll get into the Piers Morgan clip in a minute.
People are sick of that. It's just that simple. They are sick of it. Now, it is simple. If it's wrong to say the word, then it's wrong for anyone to say it. If black people want white people to not say the word, then they need to not say it.
My cracker. Look, I vehemently sort of disagree. I mean, I hate to sound woke, but look, black people do have a point when they say, no, We had people saying those words to us when they were whipping us, when they were dragging us through the cotton fields or whatever, like they got a point. They have a right to be offended by the word. And we got a right to be offended by the behaviors associated with that word. The mother in the park had a right to lose her cool and use the word. And people have a right to be offended by the word. This is another one of those situations where everyone's an asshole. The outrage is this idea that, oh, this kid's young and innocent. Which I think that's what needs that to me, that's the whole part of this whole story that needs questioned. And Matt Walsh gets into some of that in a minute, but and I didn't want to play the whole thing, but I do want to make sure I get that part in there. I'm hesitant almost to fast forward because I don't want to skip too much of it. But I think the kid's story needs examined more, and I definitely think the guy filming needs looked into more. The fact that people have uncovered her and her name, and I understand that now people are fundraising for the videographer of that clip. Hey, Rusty Rivers, yeah, where was that child's mother and father to defend them in a public playground? Well, okay, so let's Rusty Rivers, let's take this back 100 years. Let's take this back 100 years. Both of these children's fathers would have been at the playground with them. Why? Because you don't go to the playground with just your mother. The mother deals with you at home. The kids go to the playground either with their father or by themselves. And if a scuffle occurs, then the fathers get involved and the fathers will beat the shit out of each other. Where was either child's father? Honestly, that's the big question here. Now, I've heard that Shiloh has a husband. But again, there's not enough public information, and I'm glad there's not enough public information. But I think if we're going to be doxing Shiloh Hendricks, then and creating this hate mob, then we should at least have some more information on the kid. Because we're all doing it on the basis that this kid was just an innocent child who didn't do anything wrong. I think that has to be proven first. And now, there are some folks in Minnesota who've been protesting at the park for the last week, demanding that some sort of hate speech charge, some sort of arrest, some sort of public nuisance, public disruption charge be lodged against Shiloh. It's the First Amendment. First Amendment's clear. Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech. Anyway, let's skip forward and let's see if I skipped over the part Matt Walsh talked about the kid.
But that's all. The reflexive, indefensible, capricious, vacillating racial double standards are over. People are fed up with them.
Okay, so essentially what he's talking about is what's been referred to over the past 2 weeks as white fatigue. And I get it. I'm a white dude. I'm sick of being blamed for all the problems that could easily be solved if black folks truly had the unity they claim they do. And not unity as in we need to come together and destroy everything built in society, but come together and build business and community and we call it prosperity.
They are fed up with the game and they don't want to play it anymore. And that's all that this word has become. That's all that our quote unquote race relations have become. a game with arbitrary rules and incredibly excessive punishments for anyone who breaks them. It's like the societal equivalent of a child, trying to walk on the sidewalk without stepping on a crack. Eventually, the kid gets bored with it, starts walking normally again, because it turns out that if you step on a crack, you're not really going to break your mother's back. The rules are fake. And eventually, people get tired of following them. Telling white people, and white people only, that they can't combine two specific syllables under any circumstance, it's like telling them they can't touch their head unless someone says Simon Says. Okay? They're not going to play the game forever. White guilt is the fuel that keeps all this going. White guilt is what convinces white people to follow arbitrary rules that make no sense, to tolerate, even defend a system that's rigged against them with blatant double standards. It's what's compelled white people to acquiesce to a culture that says that, every race can and should.
But again, I want to take this second to stop you right there and say, look, earlier in this show, I played this song from Kanye West, where I even said these are 3 of the most offensive words in the English language. And the word you're talking about now, it was in that phrase, right? But the other 2 words are why he's being canceled. The other 2 words, so you talk about white guilt. It's not just the one word. There are lots of words that can get people canceled. There are lots of words that are part of this woke outrage mob. And like I said, I kind of, in some ways, I find Kanye's song horrendous, but in some other ways, I'm like, yeah, that's kind of a banger. And I fully support his ability to say those words together. Again, I'm not going to say them. I don't have reasons to say them. Kanye West has reasons to say them. In the song, he mentions his reasons to say them. Shiloh Anthony believes she had a reason to say the word. Or Shiloh Hendricks, excuse me. Believes she had a reason to say the word. Now, you folks can disagree. That could be a debate for the internet. That's just my 2 cents. Anyway, let's keep going. It's not just a white guilt thing. That's the point I'm trying to make. Is we always have this ever-moving Overton window, this ever-moving line of what's acceptable to woke people. Shit, in the 90s, we had to stop saying black and start saying African American. And then all of a sudden there was this shift where African American didn't really fit because not all of them, not all black folks were that connected to their African roots. And instead they believed they had formed a new culture here in America. And they wanted to be called Black Americans. This is the problem with collectivist communist thinking, is we all get in these collectives and yet we're all individuals with different reasons why we identify with the bigger group. And eventually none of it fucking makes sense.
Should defend and root for their own, but white people, and white people only, should not be conscious of their race at all. None of it is fair or morally coherent. And the Carmelo Anthony case, where a black teen raked in $500,000 as a reward for stabbing a white kid to death, was, for a lot of people, the final straw. The final straw of many, many straws. It is no surprise that the Shiloh Hendricks case comes on the heels of that. A lot of people online are fretting that this is the beginning of some kind of race war. But I don't think it's a race war, and it's certainly not the beginning. I mean, there's been a war waged on whiteness for a long time in this country. So this cannot be the beginning of anything. But it may be the end of something.
Agreed, Singlet.
The end of racial double standards. The end of...
Boom, Rusty Rivers. Thank you, sir. Yes, this is more about the cultural divide. This is the divide and conquer. I played it on my show. I showed the tweet on my show from what's his name? Used to be Luke Radowski's co-host. Fuck him. Clint Russell. I showed you the tweet from Clint Russell on my last show. Wouldn't it just be convenient that now at a time when we've elected Trump, we've come together, black folks supporting conservative causes. We need a real divide and conquer moment. So here you go. Have, a bunch of racially charged news stories in your face nonstop.
Cancel culture. This is an ugly story in a lot of ways. But if history has shown us anything, it's that ugly things die ugly deaths.
Okay. Well, I must have skipped the part where he was talking about, we don't know about the kid's background, but you heard me say it. You don't need to hear him say it. All right, got 2 more clips that I want to play, and then we'll get into the Love Don't Judge. So we're going to get into the Piers Morgan now while we're on the race war. So this is still on this. They're talking about the Shiloh Hendricks stuff. And Lily Gaddis and Myron Gaines were on Piers Morgan with some other folks. And yeah, it was quite the moment. Oh, wait, I got the long clip. I didn't mean to get the long clip. Well, fuck it. We'll play the long clip.
You posted a defense of Shiloh on X. It's been viewed 2.5 million times. Stand with Shiloh Hendricks.
Here's the thing. White people have been under attack for years. It's been systematic racism. As much as black people and people of color want to talk about systematic racism in the United States, it's quite the opposite. They get preferential treatment.
See, this is a grift, folks. This is a grift. Look, there is an individualist in me, right? That's like, yes, I am a white dude, and therefore causes that would help me as a white dude is helpful to me, and I can support them. But believing that I need to act, or I need to donate, or I even need to say a word because, hey, it's the white thing to do, that's collectivist thinking. And this here you're about to hear is a tribalist grift. That's my opinion. If you're a white dude, hey, I remember there were people a couple years back that were posting flyers that said it's okay to be white. Hey, I support that. It is okay to be white. Being collectivist and saying, well, we need to support saying the N-word in the name of whiteness. Well, it's tribalism. Now, granted, I don't cancel the bitch, right? I call her a bitch. I shouldn't call her a bitch. My bad. Don't cancel when people for saying words. Lily Gaddis got canceled for saying the N-word. And now look at her. She's made a career out of it.
When it comes to getting a job, when it comes to getting into colleges, white people, on the other hand, have been getting attacked relentlessly. Look at 2016 and BLM and all the riots. We just had to sit back and watch people burn down our cities and do nothing about it.
Our cities, as if they weren't their own cities too. Like that's the thing that frustrates me the most. Is yes, they were burning down our cities, but they were burning down their communities. The corporate stores that were being put in their communities that they viewed as, white people coming in and gentrifying or whatever. But it was still providing goods and services to their community. And that's what they were burning down. And they were burning down local stores too.
The way to fight back against essentially this anti-white hatred that's been systemically, ingrained in U.S. society is with white unity.
Sorry, just to be clear.
White unity.
This has got nothing to do with it.
I need human unity, right? This is the real problem. There are plenty of black folks who will call out that kind of behavior. There are plenty of black folks who will use that word against people like that. We don't need you to do it. The problem is we need those black folks not to see us white people as the enemy. Now, you could talk about statistics or whatever, and ultimately, a lot of these type of racial division people will bring up the race statistics and say, well, they're not policing their own. Well, some of them are. But it's not just their responsibility. But part of it is, instead of not to get back into the Kanye stuff, instead of our media, instead of movies and TV trying to promote the LGBTQ stuff in the African American community, instead we could have more TV programs about how, being a snitch when there's child rape or murder. Singlet says, yes, the ones setting the fires were flown in, real and figurative. Yeah.
With anything you've just said.
It's not about her. It's not about her. It's about
Well, it is
white
about
people
her.
coming together and supporting another white person. And it doesn't matter.
Why
what
would
she
you want to
says.
support a white racist?
Because I want to support free speech, and you cannot have free speech in a country.
No,
if you
that's
have...
fine. You can support free speech, but you also have to be accountable for what you say. Would you use the M?
You see, this is what's frustrating is, no, Piers, you don't get, Piers doesn't get it. And it's like there's middle ground between the two things that they're saying. She's right about the free speech point. We need, just like I said, we need African Americans to, and mainstream media, to call out the culture of murder, to call out the culture of get mines, right? We need to make sure that's viewed as unacceptable as the N-word, that's viewed as unacceptable as white supremacy. We need that to be pumped into our culture. And so, but we also need this freedom of speech element. We need African American folks to be like Kanye with his HH ninja.
Word out of interest? Yes. You would?
I do, quite frequently.
You use the M word quite frequently. Well, why? Other than the fact you're a despicable racist. Are you?
Okay, so here, now watch Myron Gaines here. Myron Gaines, he's yet another one of these, let's be a shock jock, let's be a provocateur, let's poke at women and black folks, and let's poke it at the Israeli people, the Hebrew people. Let's just say the most horrendous stuff we can, but then say real sane things about the topic. Yes, Rusty River. She's grifting off of Shiloh's grift. And yeah, I would argue that Myron Gaines must be too if he's on this panel. But then you see this dude here in the middle, right? You'll see this dude here in the middle, some point in this clip, just goes off the rails, just goes insane. And let's keep watching.
Sure, I'll embrace that. If that means forwarding, helping white people achieve freedom of speech, real freedom of speech, which, by the way, Shiloh Hendricks is being attacked on all fronts. They're trying to bring legal charges against her. They're trying to get her children taken away.
You just said to me you use the N word regularly. In what context? Do you use it with black people?
Yes, if it's appropriate.
When would it be appropriate?
Anytime I feel like it.
So you're an unashamed racist.
Correct.
Well, do you understand that makes you a despicable
I don't
human
think
being?
it is. I think it's
I guess so. I don't really care. I mean, why?
Here, let me look this up because let's see. I'll find his name. Damn it. Where the hell did it go? I'll find his name. I saw it somewhere. Mark Lamont. Mark Lamont Hill. Mark Lamont Hill. I've seen him in other shit.
are we not talking about Shiloh Hendricks? Why are we talking about?
Well, actually, I think you've moved it on in this debate very quickly to your own racism, which explains why you've supported her in public and why you've got all these views. And shame on you.
Well, shame on white people for allowing themselves to be systematically discriminated against in the United States. This is our country. This is a country that should be.
What do you mean your country? They've all just landed in America.
I kind of agree with
your white country. Is that your position?
Oh, we're a melting pot, and to some degree, look, we've talked about it on this show endlessly before.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, they were brought here technically.
You retweeted Nick Fuentes, the white supremacist. You said black people just raised $500,000 for a cold-blooded killer who stabbed a white teenager to death. So I don't want to hear one word about the Shiloh Hendricks fundraiser. Everyone gets to be tribal.
Conflating the two cases as if what happened in Texas has anything to do with what happened in Minnesota. That lady didn't respond to that kid reaching in her bag thinking, Carmelo Anthony, that wasn't on her mind. Yeah, you could go back to this whole conversation about, what's it called? White exhaustion or whatever it is.
Well, nobody does. Why would you retweet that?
Why are Jewish people allowed to be tribal? Why are black people allowed to be tribal? But as soon as white people stand up for themselves, we're labeled a racist. And by the way, you call people racist when you want them to stop talking about things.
No, I called you a racist because you admitted you were racist.
Racism is just having a preference. I prefer not to live around black people. I prefer not to live in a country where white people in our country are disproportionately attacked by black.
Okay, the point she's making here, I hear a lot of people in the racial realism movement making this point, and it was made real famous by what's his name, the artist who did Dilbert, Scott Adams, famously said, move away from black folk. And look, again, it's calling out the worst of our own, right? On the one hand, reject the collectivism. But if you're going to acknowledge that to some degree there's overlap in individuality, that white skin does mean something in our relation. I'm not saying be colorblind. Again, the woke mob, they're somewhat right about some of these issues. The problem is when they declare it to be the rule of thumb at all times, it's just as racist. It's just as discriminatory. And it's just as much of a power grab as the Klan had back in the day. And ultimately, you're proving the Klan right when I don't think they are. But this idea that, homogenous communities tend to be more peaceful, we may not be a homogenous nation, but just the idea that, for example, I could get together in a community of people who play Dungeons and Dragons video games and have this little homogenous community of like interest, of collectivist interest. It's a thing that does make for more of a peaceful community. People are going to have their disagreements and their arguments. But when people feel unheard to the degree that we've had this racial conversation divide this country like it has, folks, this does nothing but allows outsiders in. We're too busy fighting ourselves, too busy fighting amongst our own community. Think of the military. Our military, the way it's supposed to run, black dudes, white dudes, whoever, you're there to serve Uncle Sam, not you, not your community, your country. Rusty River says Red Fox was great. Hell yes, Red Fox was
great. Where in my country, you can have an Austin Metcalf where he asks a guy to leave, and he gets stabbed in the heart. I prefer that. That's a preference. Now, what a real racist is, in my opinion, is seeing someone as less human. I'm a Christian. I believe everyone's created in God's image. So I don't see anyone as less human. But that doesn't mean I'm not allowed to have a preference and say, I don't like what happens to be coming out of this community or that community. How is that a bad thing? How is that not just a preference?
Because you've literally made black people sound lesser humans. You don't want to live around them.
You've made them sound like a collective and not individuals.
You want to use the M word in relation to them, a word that you know causes that community unbelievable
Is that my
offense.
fault? Is that my fault? If they have
Can I
bad
speed this
behavior,
up?
if they want to act in a certain way, if I have to cross the street and be afraid that maybe because of the crime statistics that are very real, by the way, is that my fault or is that their fault for having bad behavior?
Their fault. Again. Now look, I see Mark Lamont Hill here. Look at him rolling his fucking eyes. But he's right to roll his eyes at this point, because do I think Mark Lamont Hill has done drive-bys? Do I think he's stabbed anybody at a sporting event? Do I think no? I think, and granted, a lot of people in his community would probably call him a UT, right? An uncle, right? Because he's not that way. But again, I don't know. I don't know enough about Mark Lamont Hill to make that call. I'm just making, again, a prejudice assumption based on the fact that he's got some, college stuff behind him and that he's, wearing a suit. Seems like a somewhat put together dude. He's not slinging crack at a bus stop. By the way, there's plenty of white people who I've seen slinging crack at a bus stop. That's not a racial comment.
You've had a bit of time to think about this. Is that how you want people to leave this panel debate? We're thinking of you as a disgusting racist?
Yes.
I don't really care what people think about me. As long as you care about what people think about you, you have no power and you lose your country. What I care about is freedom of speech. And if you're not allowed to say the most offensive things in this country, you do not have freedom of speech. I don't care what.
Well, and I care about healing the country. I don't necessarily care what people say about me. But if what's going to cause people to say those things about me is going to create this division of people where I could never have dinner with a guy. Now, look, Mark Lamont Hill, if you see this, I'll buy you lunch, dude. Let's sit and talk about it. But don't act like you're about to act here in this clip. We're going to see it in a second. Don't act like this.
What anybody says. So that's the main crux of this situation. That's what I care about with this situation. It is, we have lived for far too long in a country where you can have your life destroyed and people say, oh, she doesn't need this money. Her life's destroyed, by the way. She'll never be able to get another job. She's got children to have to support. And I don't want to live in a country.
She speaks from experience because she was canceled for saying that same word.
Where you can say an inappropriate, rude thing, which, by the way, black people can say things to white people all the time and they never get canceled. There's no backlashing about this. I want to live in a country where people are allowed to say what they want unashamedly, and you will
go
not
on, then
have
say it.
Here we
Say
go.
the M-
Throwing it down.
Go on. Say the M word. Go on.
No.
Hang
Don't
on.
invite. No. I don't want you to invite this woman to say a racially harmful term in front of me because I'm the only on here. So
he just said the word. He just said the word. He said the word while freaking out at the possibility, not that she said it, but at the possibility that she might say it. He flipped his lid.
if she says it, I'm the victim of it. So please don't invite her for ratings to call me
I'm the victim of a word.
the N-word, because that's basically what it's going to be. There's a bunch of white people up here, you and one Uncle Tom on the left here, and to ask her to say,
And then proceeds to use that slur against him. Now watch, look what Myron's got in his hand. Look what Myron's got in his hand. See that?
the N-word while I'm here is ridiculous. You would not sit here with
An
a
N-word
Jewish
banner
person
on the
and say,
gun.
please use a Jewish slur in front of this Jewish. It's ridiculous. I understand you don't have any bad intent, Pierce. I understand what you're trying to do. but we
you know
already
what,
know
Mark?
she's
I
racist.
hear you.
And I don't want to invite
Mark,
a racial harm to me.
I
to
hear
prove
you.
it.
I hear you.
A racial harm. Bro, it's a word on a TV show. And you probably would have been given a moment to respond to the word. You could have had this same aggression after she said the word. But you had the aggression at the notion that Piers would have allowed free speech on his platform, justifying all of the hatred that Lily just spewed.
And I accept that, and we'll leave it there.
Sango said, "Did you just call the dude a cracker?" I heard him call Myron an uncle. The uncle term. That's what I heard. It's also exhausting because every way in which we try to make progress, there's going to be some troll, which I'm all for trolls. I love trolls. I'm a troll half the time on the internet. Sometimes I'll say things just to see what kind of a reaction people will have. But at the same time, when we start to make progress, when we start to have these conversations, there's always someone that will take it 3 steps too far. This is a bad analogy, but it's kind of like when I was saying, when we made progress on abortion, all of a sudden all these state legislatures, oh no, let's ban it all right away. And what happened? All these states put it to a vote. They enshrined abortion in their fucking laws. What do? You can't go far. Changing the world is a radical thing that you do one sip at a time. You can't eat the whole elephant at once. Okay, love don't judge. Here we go. Boom, boom, boom. All right, folks. Again, I just want to say one more time, thanks for everybody for showing up. Cheers and welcome. And please click that thumbs up button. Stab that thumb like it's telling you to move at a track meet. All right, here we go. I matched with my boss on Tinder. Love don't judge. What the hell?
This is 22-year-old
Wait,
Alyssa.
does she only have one leg?
She fell in love with 58-year-old Rick.
58-year-old.
I'm in love with Rick for sure, and I'm just waiting for a ring at this point.
Luckily for these two, their 36-year age gap hasn't been something keeping them apart.
There's no way it would work if she was like typical 22.
But age wasn't the only
If she was typical
getting in the way
22.
of their relationship.
Ladies, if you're 22 years old and with one leg and looking for an old dude to hook up with, I mean, my email's down in the description. No, I'm just kidding.
When Rick first approached Alyssa on a dating app, he was the boss of the company she had just joined.
I didn't connect that picture and her profile with the girl from work.
How did real love blossom with Rick in such a position of authority over Alyssa?
I was like, what are you thinking? Like, we can't do this.
The girl from work. I'm in love with my boss. Love
I don't
don't
feel
judge.
an age difference, the way we relate to each other. And now there are things that come up because I've been around a while. And it's like, oh yeah, she's not going to remember that because she wasn't born yet. But just general conversation and interaction and relating to each other, it's just very compatible.
Hey, you remember that episode of Friends? Oh, wait, you were born well after fucking Friends went off the air? Oh, sorry.
It just works.
While neither Rick nor Alyssa noticed the 36 years separating them in age, the start of their relationship happened on rather rocky territory when Alyssa started a new job.
Before Rick, I had dated 2 other guys. One was actually 54. That lasted
54.
about
She's
5
got a
months.
thing for.
And
Oh,
then
she's got
I
daddy
delved
issues.
a little bit into Tinder. We were both working at the same place, and he liked my profile or favorited. I don't know, whatever you do.
Oh,
and so I messaged him because I recognized him immediately, and I was like, "What are you doing? We can't date."
And we didn't just work together. It was a company with 200 employees, and I was running the company.
So yeah, I messaged him. I was like, "What are you thinking? We can't do this." And
Yes,
he
Segla, do
messaged-
not dip your pen in the company.
Sorry. I didn't connect that picture and her profile with the girl from work. For whatever reason, it was just a total disconnect.
Realizing their mistake, Rick...
Dude, be honest. Be fucking honest. You did what guys do on Tinder. You make, women do it too. What everyone does on Tinder. You glance. If it looks remotely hot, you swipe right. If there's anything that sticks out of you as wrong, you swipe left. You saw a remotely attractive blonde. That's the only thing that registered in your mind in 2 seconds, and you went. Be honest. Yeah, you didn't recognize. Yeah, until you actually matched. Which the fact that she also swiped right on a dude she knew was her boss means either she paid for Tinder so that she could see the dudes that liked her without her having to match, or she did the same damn thing.
Suggested the two of them meet up for lunch to smooth over the awkwardness.
I had a lot to lose. I mean, think about it. I'm the guy in the corner office, and here's somebody that just started. You can't do that in a company. You just can't, because she could then feel like if she wasn't interested, then it feels like a hostile workplace. Like here's this guy using his power or authority or whatever.
Don't do it. It's a lawsuit.
And it's like I wanted to just diffuse any of that. That's what I wanted when we met.
You could lose your company.
And then after 2 hours, it just went a whole nother direction. So.
I think he was still toying with it. I was half expecting him to kiss me, but he didn't.
Luckily for the two, soon after, their work situation changed.
6 weeks later, we won't go into the details, but I was no longer with the company. And once I left the company, it's like, okay.
He ran the company and quit for Young
We've been
Tail.
dating a year and a half. Once we started seeing each other, it was like we saw each other almost every day. It was really like boom, 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 boom,
Quit
boom.
the company for Young Tail.
And then it was only a couple months, and she had some stuff going on with her roommates and whatnot. And I was like, just move in.
Don't move in this. Oh.
I was born with a rare congenital disease called praxial tibial hemimelia. It happens to 1 in a million people, and basically my tibia, which is your large lower leg bone, didn't develop. And so,
to any ladies, if you're disabled, I mean, you know, they say a woman's value is between her legs, but you know, look, you've got a brain too. You still have, you know, other capabilities. You're a real fucking person. Same way with dudes. I mean, anybody. Like, you have a humanity. Don't hide it.
because of that, I wasn't able to walk, and so that's why they amputated my leg. I'm a right above knee amputee. I was born in Ukraine.
I don't know, dude. There's like 50 of those fucking rom-coms in the late 90s. I'm sure I've seen it, but dude, they all blended together. All those rom-coms had the same plot. And eventually all the fucking Adam Sandler and what's his name? The dude who was in all them Adam Sandler movies, but now is all fucking conservative. Fucking Deuce Bigelow. Fuck. Why am I having this brain fart right now? Anyway. Oh, this isn't that. Oh, this isn't a rom-com? Okay, never mind. My bad. I take it back then. They all had the same plot, though.
From what we know.
Now, the point I was making is, yeah, all those movies had the exact same plot, which I've given this rant on this show before.
My mother was super young. I was supposed to die. I was in the hospital for a year before I was sent to the orphanage.
She's gonna start crying. To an orphanage.
I'm sorry. So I was adopted from Ukraine at the age of 4.
Adopted from Ukraine.
I came to the US.
Oh, a Ukrainian bride. Okay.
So I had surgery to amputate my right leg, and I've been wearing a prosthetic ever since. Growing up without my leg was really tough. All you two-leggers walking around, you all got it so easy, okay?
We do, man.
We're both kind of like
no,
on
I
the
must
same
not have seen
age,
this one.
just in terms of like careers and goals. And I've been told that I'm really mature for my age, and I'm secretly 80.
With Rick no longer Alyssa's boss, and with the two being free to date, there are other factors that need to be considered when one half of a couple is significantly older.
I think a lot about what the rest of my life's going to look like. And so I think I'm going to hold up pretty good over the next 10, 15 years. But after that, all bets are off. I have no idea. And
He's
then
going
I
to
try
break
think
my
what that's
hip.
gonna look
I need
like
to
with
find a
somebody
nice,
that's, in their mid to late 30s. So that's probably my biggest reservation is that fair to her?
I think for me, we'll just see where it goes. I mean, if it means I'm changing your diapers, I'm changing his diapers, you know. I'm in it for the long haul. And, you know, who knows? I could be hit by a car tomorrow.
Due to their age difference, people have been quick to make judgments about their coupling.
The worst reactions we've gotten have all pretty much been online because I do share about us. That's gross, or, you know, you shouldn't be doing that.
Did you see that? Did you see the comment? How do you have sex with one leg? Dude, once you can get that leg out of the way, oh my God, there's like 10 more positions you could do. What do you mean how you have sex with one leg? It's easier. There's less stuff in the way. You just get right to the... Anyway, I'm a pervert. I'm sorry.
Or that's illegal, or...
it's illegal.
Which it's not.
So.
We're both consenting adults,
22.
obviously. I just delete it because, you know, they don't know us.
I did have one time we ran into my buddy Dan. We were getting dinner.
It does look like an episode of Law and Order SUV.
Oh, this is Alyssa. And he's like, oh, is this your daughter? I was like, no, it's my girlfriend. He was like, oh, well, that's nice. And we just kept talking.
He may have started off as her significantly older boss, but in the time since these two first met, the only difference that's mattered is just how much their feelings for one another have grown.
I'm in love with Rick for sure, and I'm just waiting for a ring at this point. I mean, come on, wife me up. I'm ready.
Right.
What's on the
same
fucking
here.
life
I'm in
insurance
love with
policy?
Alyssa, and our relationship is great. She keeps me on my toes, and she's just got energy like I've never seen, and she's just a whole nother level of human being. I'm like, I don't know where you're from, but I've never seen anything like that. She's really something. Can't slow you down.
Wow.
Broken leg
All right.
won't stop
I
me.
mean, I wish them well. Again, they're consenting adults, like they said. I'm not going to hate on that. I'm not going to hate on that, except for the fact that the dude, like, I do have to hate on him for, dude, you left a career with a salary for a young piece of tail. Like you left running a company, like with a heck of, I'm assuming a heck of a salary. I'm assuming 6 figures at least for a young piece of tail. Saying, let's give me the trailer for that movie. All right, I might have to check it out. I've got about 4 other. I don't watch a lot of movies. I really don't, because I like all my free time is spent on either comic books, my other hobbies, or preparing for these shows. So I don't have a lot of time for movies, and I've got like 3 other ones I'm wanting to watch. Just if for no other reason than to have something to do with the lady upstairs, because we don't share a lot of our hobbies, so we do have some interests that we share, like the movies. And we're really wanting to. There's that new we call it The Accountant. The Accountant sequel just came out, and so I'm wanting to watch the first one and then watch the second one, and I might eventually catch up to this. I'm putting it on my. I'm going to send it to myself here. Oh, nope, that didn't work. Nope, that didn't work. Make sure I'm not sharing that on the screen here. Okay, yeah. I've done that before. I accidentally doxed myself and had to take the whole stream down. Okay. Okay. Sending that to myself. Okay, done. So I will know to check that out later. Thank you, Sanglant, for the link. Pegleg scored a rich sucker. Good for her, I guess. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Ultimately, they both got what they were looking for. And I'm assuming he's still doing well. But guys, there's lots of women out there. Don't risk your career for them. Please be smarter than that. So that's my admonishment for the Love Don't Judge this week. Well, we have now reached the hour mark, or we will by the time I finish this little spiel. 3-hour program. That's what we're doing now every Friday. I'm going to try to make the segments a little more structured to some degree. I want to also give yet another shout out to Bulldozer. I want to give a shout out to We Are the Show. I want to give a shout out to Cool Frog. These are all people who've been willing to help me shout out my channel through all of my woes with the Rumble Creator Program. And then, of course, we've had Neurodivergent One, who's basically a mod for all the big rumblers. I mean, he's amazing. And he's shouted out my show too. So again, a big shout out to all of y'all. And, you know, I can't give enough shout outs to all the people who've made this worth it, who've really made this worth it. Let me see here. Okay. Yeah, I can't say how much I love y'all enough. Y'all do great. So just keep doing me favors in the form of clicking that big thumb. If y'all are new here, please watch a second video somewhere on my channel. Just give me some view. You know, go find something else that sounds kind of funny on my channel. Just have it running in the background while you're driving in the car, or while you're at work, or while you're playing a video game. Just have another Miles Culture Plate stream running somewhere, or over on my gaming channel. Feel free to watch some of my playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3. By the way, if you're watching my playthrough last night, I accidentally had the sound fucking Rumble Studio auto mute you when you first start the stream, and I forgot to take it off. I had the sound muted for the first 45 minutes of the fucking stream, but I managed to fix it for the remainder 2.5 hours. So again, my apologies for that. I'm trying to make less mistakes, but it only happens through more experience, and that's what I'm doing here. Anyway, so again, thank you. Please share the stream, like, share, hit the follow button, all that stuff. Rusty Rivers says good movies. Okay, well, I hope so. Yeah, I'm going to catch those. I'm going to catch those accountant movies. I've heard they were really good. I watched the trailer for the first one, but the trailer, I mean, this is one of the first trailers where like I literally can't tell a damn thing that's happening. So I'm excited. I'm actually excited because like the trailer didn't spoil a damn thing. It just kind of seemed like a bunch of random shit happening. All right, so yeah, folks, please come on back next Friday. You know what? No, let's see. Let me look at the calendar here. I need to do 3 Sunday streams, or at least 2. I need to do 2 Sunday streams, and yeah, I probably ought to do a Sunday stream this Sunday. Not sure what it's going to be about, but yeah, it'll probably be same bat time, same bat channel. I'll probably have to do sort of a split. I might try to find something else to watch. Maybe there will be some more Tucker Carlson interviews or something I can do. But yeah, we'll do a Rumble exclusive stream Sunday night, 6 p.m. Central. Come back here. And then, of course, come back every Friday from here on out for a while. Miles Culture Plate Friday, the Happy Friday live stream. And yeah, I think, is Cool Frog live with his evening show yet? I might pop in there later if he's still going. Or, well, I mean, he usually goes all fucking night, but I might pop in over on Cool Frog's channel later. Yep, he's doing his open mic. Kind of feel like I should raid him. But man, he gets raided by fucking Viva Frey and big guys now. He doesn't need my raids. Yeah, let me see. What do he got on the live feed? Live. View all. Page 4. I always go to page 4 because that's about the right size of an audience I'm looking for. so many 24/7 streams between the music streams and I'm restreaming this television show or television network rather. Just so much recycled content. Where's the people actually producing stuff? See ya, Sanglant. Just trying to find a damn and I also there's three problems with raiding people, right? Is either I raid someone who's not actually producing content, or I raid someone who's primarily on YouTube and doesn't even see the raid in the damn chat because they're too busy on YouTube and not looking at Rumble. Here we go. We got this dude playing the Dark Souls. Is he playing Dark Souls? No, he's not playing Dark Souls. He's not playing. I'll raid this guy playing Dark Souls. Okay. Now let me go to my feed and open my own stream, and we'll go ahead and raid this guy. Yes. So that's going to be Mild's Culture Plate for tonight. Thanks everybody for showing up. Again, cheers to everybody who showed up tonight. Another cheers to everybody who's watching on demand. And another cheers to everyone who's listening audio only. Please come on back for the next broadcast. Until then, take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. Outlast the haters. Don't get any on you. And if you do, rub that shit in real good. I'll catch you next time on Mild's Culture Play. Till then, have a good weekend, everybody. Good night.